Hello, everyone. Welcome live to 3 Wide TV Giants broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association here at the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tonight we have the Lots of Lizards 250 here around the Brickyard, and I am Peter Short, and joining me alongside, as always, is Mr. Drew Eisenman. Drew, great to be back at home again in the state of Indiana here. 250 miles, 100 laps around this racetrack. Going to be a long night tonight.
It is, but even at tracks where we expected those long nights, these guys have put on a heck of a show and made entertaining work of that. So, it's going to be a challenging race for those involved, especially at a place like Indy where there's not a lot of room to save mistakes. Whether it's getting into guys, whether it's a mistake getting on pit road, while it's a big 2.5 mile oval. Their walls are right there, and it just takes getting a little bit out of the groove and whatnot, and you can find yourself in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this racetrack known for Indy cars, not really known for stock cars, although since 1994, NASCAR has been coming to this racetrack. And I'll tell you what, it definitely has made a name for itself. We ride on board with James Lorello because, Drew, the man who we ride on board with has been on an absolute tear in this series. Tell the folks a little bit about who we ride on board with right now.
James Lorello, so quick. Last week wasn't quite able to get the victory because of quite a few late race cautions, but yeah, 3 wins this year. So quick, so consistent, so good at saving his equipment. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how his strengths play here at Indy, because I am not really anticipating a race which is going to highlight what he's so good at. It's going to be, I think, a tight pack race. And while he's been able to make that work in the past, I don't think that this is necessarily going to suit him the best. But if it turns into a handling race, I absolutely expect this 9 truck to be out front.
Yeah, the number 9 right there of James Lorello, second fastest here in this practice session. You see the name scrolling across the top of the screen there, Drew. But I'll tell you what, that number 9 of Lorello, he's also been moving up in the points as of late. He's gotten himself solidly inside the top 10 with 3 wins to his name this season. Tell the folks about what's going on in the point standings.
Up top, we have Bill Edwards in that 50 truck. Hasn't gotten to victory lane yet, but we've seen him display a massive amount of speed. Just about 12 points behind him, actually, is TJ Buck, who is our Texas race winner. And then 12 points behind TJ Buck is our 3-time winner this year. The guy we just talked about, James Lorello. When he hasn't won or really finished in the top 5, he's kind of been way down the field. You'd expect 3 wins out of 9 races, winning a third of the races here to be out front in points, but it's kind of been a feast or famine for that 9 truck. Chris Darling, who has displayed a ton of speed and who won Talladega sliding at 90 degrees across the start-finish line. Jeff Price won earlier this year. Doug Milner in 6th in points win earlier this year. And then Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Colin Ullery, and Ben Adams will finish out our top 10. Paul Bilson, another one of those guys who, unlike, I think, Chris Darling and James Lorello, had a ton of speed, but doesn't have anything to show for it. Hasn't had really that race where he's been able to really display what he can do, but we know that 51 truck's quick.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there's a lot of fast trucks here in this series. It's definitely the number 9 was very quick. But what about Colin Ullery in that number 62? There he is on your screen with the Red Bull Ford F-150 here this week. Got Sim Racing shirts on the side. Of course, this is the Sim Racing shirts pole shootout. The winner of the pole will not only pick up the starting on the front row on the inside, but he will also pick up the Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award here tonight at Indianapolis. And definitely that number 62 truck, fastest in practice just a little while ago, might have struggled a little bit there through turns number 1 and 2. And Drew, this is a racetrack where you really want to get the launch down these long straightaways. Turn number 2 and turn number 4 are so crucial to your lap time at this racetrack.
Yeah, it definitely... It's one of those tracks that really, really rewards consistency. Even in 1 and 3, where you think you would be able to recover, I think if you make a mistake in one of those, then you're kind of set up poorly for 3 and 4, and then you get penalized the whole straightaway. So one mistake in a corner can cost you several tenths, if not more than that, over the span of just half a lap. So it's one of my favorite tracks because of that, because it rewards guys who can just be incredibly consistent in really hit your apexes and carry a ton of cornering speed. It really rewards those guys, but the guys that can be kind of quick but not consistent, it can be a real challenge for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at that time by this man right here. That is Andrew Himmelman in the number 4 SimRacingShirts.com Chevrolet, halfway down the backstretch. Now he's currently on the provisional pole in that number 4 Chevy Silverado. Great job by Himmelman to be fastest so far. And also a very cool paint scheme, as it looks like he might have just caught a piece of the wall there coming out of turn number 3. But this paint scheme, Drew, on the front, of course, is pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which, of course, all of us here are supporting on 3 Wide TV. But the back half of it, Carolina blue. He's a big Carolina Panthers fan, and that number 4 machine is looking very sporty here tonight. And could possibly sit on, well, no, as I say that, commentators curse strikes, because Doug Milliner in the number 6 Mobile has gone to the top of the charts. How about that? Indianapolis Colts on that truck here tonight. We are in Indianapolis, and wouldn't that be pretty fitting to see the number 6 Indianapolis Colts machine on the pole here tonight?
Yeah, I won't mention my professional football team. They might just have one win this season. So yeah, I'm not a. They might be in the same division as the Colts, but they're certainly not as good as they are, at least this season. So I'm glad he's a fan of the Colts, and wish them all the best this year, since my team is not going to do anything. But yeah, really, really close here up at the front. Maybe not as close as I was expecting, though. Close for first and second, but I was really expecting all of the top 15 to be within 2 or 3 tenths of each other, just based on what we've seen so far this year. So actually quite a decent spread. I know 2.5 tenths isn't huge, but it's a little bit more than I was expecting for the top 10 down there with the 24 Ben Mashburn. But qualifying's not over. We still have quite a few trucks on track here. Quite a long qualifying session. I don't remember this being 10 minutes before. So these guys definitely have a ton of time. It does take a long time just to get your outlap in here at Indy. So if it is a little bit longer, which it definitely seems to be from my perspective, that would absolutely be a legitimate reason as to why.
Yeah, absolutely. We're right on board here with Justin White, so you can get a little bit of perspective around this racetrack. Of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway doesn't really need much of an introduction. If you even watched a single race in your life, good chance it is the Indianapolis 500. A rectangular racetrack, unlike any other racetrack we go to in NASCAR, and pretty much unlike any other racetrack, at least now. Of course, Homestead, Miami back in the day was envisioned as a rectangular racetrack, and makes for some very interesting racing, because these corners, you need a lot of downforce for them. You really have to roll out of the throttle, and at least you do with the Cup cars, or the old Cup cars. But here with these trucks, they have a lot of downforce, and you can see they're not losing a whole lot of speed here, at least on fresh tires, Drew. I'm kind of watching that speed in the bottom left-hand corner here of Justin White. About 180 miles an hour here at the end of the backstretch. But look, he's only going to lose about 15 miles an hour when he drops off into turn number 3 here, down to about 168, 167. That's not a huge drop off in speed, a little bit less than I was expecting even. So these trucks, they're going to be on the throttle a lot here tonight.
And I think with what we've seen, I mean, heck, Charlotte was darn near a draft track. I think that Indy is really, really going to be really kept tight by the aero effects that we've seen. Yeah, that's one thing that caught me. I don't watch nearly as much Cup stuff as I used to, but watching last week at Texas in real life, I just noticed that through turns 1 and 2, they didn't touch the throttle, regardless of where they were in the run. So I know these trucks are pretty similar to the current Cup packages, so it's not terribly surprising to see really, really high cornering speeds relative to the straight line speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And Drew, why don't we see? It looks like most of the trucks have put in a qualifying I'm seeing Jeff Price and Joshua Sobel out there on the racetrack right now. Joshua Sobel, actually, he just put in his first time in the number 30 Stay Tuned Sports Tundra. It looks like a little bit of right side damage on that number 30 truck. He's going to go 27th out of 28 cars to take time here tonight. Jeff Price in the number 14. There he is. He's also out there on the racetrack. We'll see what he can do. Andrew, that number 14, he has definitely shown pace here in the Simbox Truck Series in the first third of the season as we close in on the halfway mark in the 2020-21 Simbox Truck Series. And there he is. He's going to jump up to 14th on the board. We'll have to see if he can pick it up on lap number 2 here.
Yeah, the 14 and 14th. I feel like Jeff's gotten stronger pace-wise as the season's run. I know he did manage to snag a win earlier in the season, I believe in the third race at Las Vegas. So, but I feel like he didn't necessarily have the quickest pace in that race. He was just definitely able to capitalize and maximize his race. But I feel like since then, maybe the finishes aren't quite there, but that 14 truck has been further and further and further consistently towards the front of the pack. And we'll see if that translates here to Indy. I just think Indy's such a unique oval, especially for stock cars. I'm sure that anybody who's watched real life stuff has seen it compared to Pocono. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think Pocono is another really unique track. I think probably setup wise, the two are similar, but I think that Indy is very different than anywhere else that we go to. And I think that it can reward a driver that might not be good at a lot of other tracks, that you might see a guy different that basically has a dominant pace here at Indy than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, and let's see if we can get a quick word with Doug Milliner. How about that? The number 6 machine looks like he's going to walk away here tonight with your pole award, the Sim Racing Shirts pole award winner, Doug Milliner, here in the 3Y TV booth. Doug, you got a copy?
Hey, what's up?
I'll tell you what, man, a blistering lap time out there, about a half a tenth faster than the next fastest truck of Andrew Himmelman. You found a knack for this racetrack. Drew and I were just talking about how this racetrack is unique. Is this one that suits your style?
I don't know. I did a lot of practicing this week, and I kind of like this track. I don't know. It's just kind of fun to drive. It's different than what we always do, and I guess I really don't know how I did that lap. I was expecting like around 10th or something, so I outdid my own expectations there.
Well, yeah, you absolutely did putting it on the pole. How important do you think it's going to be picking up that Sim Racing Shirts pole award? Do you think qualifying up at the front is going to matter after the end of 250 miles?
I hope so. It'll definitely puts me at an advantage not to be caught up in something early. Somebody coming off 2 or 4 too hard, bouncing off the wall into other people. So hopefully I'm able to avoid that. That was kind of the big thing I was worried about, was the start of this race, and just somebody being a little over aggressive, or myself being over aggressive and causing a big one.
Well, Doug, we're going to shift over here into the race. Best of luck here for this race here tonight.
All right, thanks. You guys have fun.
All right, that we will. We'll let him get back to his team. But, Drew, the qualifying session has come to a close. And like we mentioned, the Sim Racing Shirts pole award winner, Doug Milliner, here tonight. But let's see if we can go down here to tonight's starting lineup here, Drew.
Yeah, as we just mentioned, just talked to the number 6 Doug Milliner, our pole sitter tonight. To his outside, that really cool pink and blue number 4 truck of Andrew Himmelman. James Zarello, our 3-time winner, will be starting third. To his outside will be the 62 of Colin Ullery. And then behind them, just given this starting grid just a second to catch up a little bit, don't want to outpace the graphics. Chris Darling will be starting P5. Pretty outstanding qualifying position for that 47 truck. He has definitely been a guy that's shown a ton of pace on the long runs, and maybe not done quite as well in qualifying as his race pace has been. And then Jamar Dumas will take that 28 truck, very similar to the Davey Allison schemes of old, the Ernie Irvin schemes of old. We'll start P6. The 16 of Brian Bradley, good qualifying effort for that 16 truck in 7th. Mitchell Adams, last week's winner, last year's champion, will start to his outside in 8th. And then Philip Scott, once again, a nice qualifying from that 44 truck, teammate to Chris Darling. He will start in 9th, and his teammate, Ben Ashburn, part of that 3-car team, will be starting in 10th.
Yeah, starting on the inside of row number 6 is the number 51 of Paul Bilson. Been very, very fast here so far this season. Ben Adams on the outside of row number 6. Starting on the inside of row number 7 is the number 48 of Matt Cherry, who has been very, very quick. Drew, we've talked about it many, many times about that 48 truck kind of shooting himself in the foot. Hopefully he can get to the checkered flag here tonight. Jeff Price in the number 14 will be starting from the 14th position. Starting on row number 8 on the inside, the number 7 of Ray Heilig. That number 7, you see it right there, sponsored by TikTok. And to his outside, the number 61 of Joey Doucette, who has a knack of sneaking his way up there into the top 10 late. On the inside of row number 9, that would be the number 32 of Peter Serto. And to his outside, your current points leader, the number 50 of Bill Edwards. He's going to have to come from quite a ways back in the pack with a little bit of a Halloween look this week. And behind them and rounding out your top 20 here, Steven Doziak in the 05 machine and Justin White in the 2 mobile. There, Drew.
And that 13 truck of Jordan Schepler will be starting in 21st. To his outside, Nicholas Bradley in that 40, who had quite a bit of pace recently, and I don't think has really been able to maximize on that. Aaron Mack in that 21 truck will be starting in P23. And to his outside will be the 15 of Robert Dudley. Kind of a disappointing qualifying effort for that 15 truck based on what we've seen earlier this year. We'll see if he can make his way up to the front. And then that will be the 10 of Monty Glover starting 25th with Texas winner TJ Buck, another guy that has shown quite a bit of pace that maybe didn't quite get the qualifying effort that they wanted. He will be starting in 26th. The 60 of Matt Vanderkoy will be starting 27th. And to his outside, Josh Sobel, who had some type of incident qualifying, had pancaked the right side of that 30 truck. And then Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in that 33 truck will be rounding out our 29 truck field, the biggest field that we have had, in fact, since the 4th race of the season at Richmond International Raceway.
Yeah, absolutely. A great field here tonight, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The field led currently by that Chevrolet Pace truck, but it says, see you later, guys, because the race cars got to get to it. That's the number 6 of Doug Milliner leading them down at 55 miles an hour, waiting for the green flag to fly. Green flag flies at Indianapolis, and the number 6 doesn't get a good start. Andrew Himmelman going to jump out to an early lead here. Who's going to win the race down to turn number 1? It is going to be Andrew Himmelman. Andrew Himmelman here leads early coming out of turn number 1. But, Drew, this is a long race as the field tries to work their way now through turn number 2. And one thing about this racetrack is it's very, very difficult to find your way around other trucks, especially with a tight race truck. And from what I'm seeing from these drivers, some of them here in the 3-Wide TV chat here tonight, saying these trucks are pushing tight.
Yeah, they're almost easier to drive this way when that front loses grip before the rear. But I think it really makes it difficult to race guys side by side. If you pinch that truck down, you're going to be likely to push up. And, I think that was a truck into the outside wall. That front stretch is so narrow. Who are we looking on coming onto pit road there, Peter?
This is Chris Darling. Darling has a drive-through penalty that he has to serve on the first lap of the race. So he's going to come down and serve that drive-through. That is because of what happened last week at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a little bit of contact down the backstretch. And he said, you know what, I'm going to give myself that penalty. Of course, he is one of the league admins. Gave himself that drive-through. He's serving it now. So now he's got that out from the back of his mind. He just has to put his head down and get his way through the field here tonight in the National Sim Racing Association Simbox Truck Series. Make sure to check out Simbox. There's a link in the description. They make great quality button boxes, and I'll tell you what, you can't ever have enough buttons for sim racing. But Drew, I absolutely love this look down all the way back through the field, them kind of jumping out of turn number 4 and then just flying off into turn number 1, led by Andrew Himmelman, who's led the first 2 laps here tonight.
Yeah, I know on that start, you do really realize how narrow that front stretch is with that pit wall separating pit lane and the racetrack, and how it can, how many times have we seen this in real life? Maybe a 2-car incident turned into a 6, 7, 8-car incident just because there's nowhere to go to avoid stuff that happens on the front stretch. It's just so easy to see a bunch of smoke and have nowhere to go and pile into guys. And hopefully that doesn't factor in to this race, but it so easily can. As out front here, not surprisingly, that Ford truck not able to get away because of the draft effect. Though I guess not based on what the drivers have said. I was just expecting this to be a little more compacted by the draft. But if these guys are tight, that draft, that aero wash behind these trucks is just going to make them even tighter and make it really, really difficult to get a run on the truck in front of you.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I'll tell you what, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how many of these trucks suffer with that downforce issue because they're already tight. And if they have the air taken off the nose, it's just going to push them up into the wall even more. We're watching a little bit further back in the pack right here. That is Steven Doziak in the Dunkin' Donuts machine. He was able to make a pass. And look a little bit further back, that's the Captain Crunch Chevrolet, the 84 TJ Buck, your Texas Motor Speedway winner earlier this season, starting to work his way up through the field, running right behind Peter Serto. We do have a Peter Serto fan in the chat. That is Kelsey Jalowski. Has a little bit of connection issue there. It appears on the number 84 of TJ Buck. We'll have to see whether or not he works his way back out into the racetrack. But here comes the number 24 of Ben Mashburn. He's got himself up into the third position. He has picked up now 7 positions from where he started. So big start so far for the number 24.
Yeah, I think Ben's had a little bit of a disappointing season based on where his teammates have been, but maybe Indy is going to be that track that really helps him. Kind of a block there on the backstretch on that 49. Last week's winner, Mitchell Adams, a little unexpected is the 49. That is out of the groove, and that can be deadly here at Indy. We saw J.R. Hildebrand lose the Indy 500 in turn 4 by getting out of that groove. I think especially late in this race when that rubber's really built up on the bottom and there's a ton of marbles up top, I think doing that kind of stuff can really, really endanger your ability to make the corner, let alone, kind of stay competitive on that outside groove. It definitely seems like these guys are having a hard time kind of keeping a relatively tight line to the outside, as we just saw that 6 truck of Doug Milliner get kind of high and out of the groove there as well, and that cost him a couple spots. Yeah,
Doug Milliner in that number 6 machine, your Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner. He's now slid back another position. There he is. He's now being scored in 7th, right in front of Jamar Dumas and Ben Adams in 9th, and Matt Cherry. Big start for the number 48 truck. He started back in 13th. He's now up into the top 10, so he's picked up a couple spots. But pretty much starting to get single file pretty much all the way through the pack. Watch this, folks. You will see all those trucks coming out of the corner, but the one truck that isn't trying to stay in line, that's the number 24 of Ben Mashburn. And Colin O'Leary almost 3 wide there going into turn number 1, Drew. That was pretty darn close. Looks like they get things sorted out as the 49 of Mitchell Adams now going to go for 2nd position on the outside line. You don't see many passes using that high line, but that's what Mitchell Adams is trying to do here.
I think if you approach the corner correctly, it can really work, especially if these trucks are tight. You keep that guy on the inside kind of pinned down, too much wheel into it, he's not going to be able to get off the corner, and that's what we saw that 49 truck do successfully. I was about to say, the only time I should ever expect to see anyone racing on the oval, road course as well, 3 wide is the start of the Indy 500. So that certainly was aggressive potentially there by that 62 truck. But that 49 of Mitchell Adams not wasting any time right on the tailgate of that 4 truck. Is he going to make a move going into 1 here? I don't think he's quite going to be able to do it. Bit of a defensive line for that 4 truck out front as he kind of entered that corner about halfway down the track already. But that 24 truck looking to make him move on his teammate as well, now focusing back out front on that battle. Nice kind of late entry by that 49 truck. We'll see if he gets a little bit of momentum, as I believe that's James Lorello making a move for 3rd here. These guys had started to kind of sprawl out, spread out a little bit, but we're really seeing these guys kind of get pulled back together as this draft has come into effect. And also got a big old cloud over there in turn 3, and that might be giving them just a little bit more grip, make these guys be able to just kind of put their trucks in a little bit different position. As, looking at that 24 truck, was trying to make a move on his teammate. that 44. And now looks like Doug Milner's going to try to regain that spot as he has fallen back outside of the top 5 after starting on pole. And we are only on lap 9 here out of 100 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, Milliner and Mashburn battling for the 6th position. Looks like Milliner gonna take that spot as they head out of turn number 1. Now Mashburn gonna fall into the clutches of the number 5 of Ben Adams, who sits behind him. And look at Jamar Dumas in the Texaco Haviland machine. But back up at the front, James Lorello, he's trying to get underneath the 62 of Ullery as we have a battle for the race lead. Mitchell Adams in that number 49 truck trying to get up to the front. That's where we've seen him many, many times this season. And it looks like Mitchell Adams will get the race lead here on lap number 9. But look who followed him right through. Winner of 3 times this season, that is James Lorello. Now the battle is for that 3rd position a little bit further back. Look at the 62 Ullery on the inside, and look at Philip Scott in the 44, giving a nudge to the back of the number 4. That was close as they head down the front stretch.
Yeah, these top 2, it's almost like Charlotte all over again. Didn't take long for the guys that have showed so much pace throughout the season to make their way out front in Mitchell Adams and James Lorello. But it's turned into one of those proverbial hornet's nests here up towards the front as guys potentially making it 3 wide, really battling each other hard, trying to get up there. And, man, I thought that 24 truck was in a little bit of trouble there as it got really, really tight on entry to that corner not too long ago, but able to sort it out, able to keep going. Yeah, what happened with that 49 and getting by our then race leader, Andrew Himmelman, I think the Ford truck just got really, really tight at a 2 and had to get out of the throttle, and that just left the door wide open for that 49 and Mitchell Adams to take advantage. But James Dorello, heck of a run out of 4 here. He's going to peek to the inside of last year's champion Mitchell Adams and really send that truck into 3. Mitchell Adams way out of the groove there in 1 and actually able to make that work fairly well as he's coming back on the short chute going into turn 2. And we'll see if he can kind of make this almost really late arc work. Not quite. James Dorello will clear him, but I think the 49 is going to have a little bit of momentum. We'll see if he's able to come back on James Dorello on the backstretch.
Yeah, Mitchell Adams, he's the only driver I've been able to see that has been able to make that higher groove work, just not able to make it work enough to hold off the number 9 of Lorello. That number 9 machine is on an absolute tear here once again in the Simbox Truck Series. But Drew, one thing I'm thinking about here is the fact that we're probably not too far away. I mean, we're only on lap number 11, but these drivers could probably only make it to about lap number 20 or so before they have to come down and pit, because remember, these drivers do have a smaller fuel tank here in this series. So we're going to see a lot of pit stops here tonight and hopefully a lot of green flag pit stops tonight.
Yeah, as I've said before, numbers are scary, but this one's pretty easy. The math here, 100 laps. I think if you can get to lap 20, you're going to be putting yourself in a pretty good position as far as strategy is concerned. If you can stretch it to lap 25, which I think is probably outside of their fuel window, you're cutting a full pit stop out of this race. So just looking here at fall off, which honestly I haven't looked at too much so far today, they are actually almost 2 seconds slower. So that is huge fall off wise. I wonder if these guys are burning through the right front tires. So we will see how that impacts strategy, because over the course of 100 laps, if this thing goes green, it might not be worth cutting a pit stop out of this. If you're losing 2 seconds a lap for 5-10 laps, right? You might be able to make that up over the course of the race. So it'll be really interesting to see what these guys decide to do, how far they can stretch it on fuel as we are queuing up a replay. What are we looking at, Pete?
We're watching the number 62, Colin Ullery, right there, just smacking the wall just a little bit. We'll get one more look of this on board with the number 62 machine. Let's rewind that just one more time here, and let's go all the way back. I don't even think we're on board, Colin. There we go. On board that number 62 right here, going off into turn number 1. This is what we heard from a few of the drivers, that these trucks have a tendency to push. You can see them push, bang, there's the wall, just kissing it. So Colin Ullery, he's going to have a little bit of right side damage, and you and I know, Drew, that of all the racetracks that we go to, this is one of those where downforce is super important. Of course, we go to a lot of 1.5-mile racetracks, but this racetrack is designed with high downforce. Well, not necessarily designed for high downforce cars, because this racetrack is, over 100 years old, essentially, or getting very close to it. So, we with Indy cars in mind, and with Indy cars being what this racetrack is known for, you got to have downforce here. Those Indy cars have a lot of downforce, but what I'm seeing right now is a caution flag out in the racetrack.
Yeah, I believe we're going to be looking here at Josh Sobel, Justin White, kind of where they are in the pack. Actually, a little bit in front of them. We'll see what happened as we can queue up this replay. As here we go down the backstretch, I believe. There we go, the 50, our points leader, Bill Edwards, hard into the inside wall. Oh, and then Josh Sobel. And Vanderkoy. Wow, that 50 truck took a bunch of big hits there, Pete. That was not good for our points leader.
Yeah, we'll see if we can cue this up from the Blimp Cam, and let's see if we can slow this down, because the 61 and the 05, I don't know what's happening between them. There was definite contact between the 05 and the 61. Maybe he got the clear high call and just kind of clipped the left rear, of the 61 of Doucette, and then there goes the 50. And a big hit there for your points leader. And look at Doucette there sliding through the grass. Now he's going to come back up the racetrack right here. I think that's a 50 that's going to come back up the racetrack. And just get into the side of someone. Yeah, he's coming up the racetrack. And there's the number 30 of Joshua Sobel. Just nothing Sobel could do to avoid it. Look at Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Was he able to squeak through it? Oh, man, I think Jeffrey Johnson Jr. wasn't. Matt Vanderkoy, bam, slam bam into the side of the number 50, your points leader here tonight, and that is definitely not good for that number 50 mobile. But, Drew, I want to get it on board perhaps with the number 33, because that was very, very close. Here we go on board with him.
Yeah, here we go, coming out of turn 2. You can hardly see, just see a little bit of puff of smoke, and then it's figuring out where's the momentum going to take these trucks. You see that 50 come back across the track, 30 gets into the wall, 33 just smartly kind of locks it down, waits for that wreck to develop, and then just goes where the trucks aren't going. And that's basically what you got to do to avoid these wrecks. But man, I think if that wreck were to happen all over again, I think that 50 truck just wishes that he would have held his brake as soon as he started going to that inside wall. I think if he would have done that, he might not have come back into traffic. Maybe he still would have, but probably not with as much momentum, not with as much speed. And then maybe he would have been easier to avoid, because I can't imagine that 50 truck is going to be anywhere near competitive if he's even able to resume the race here. Huge misfortune, huge points implications, because that 50 truck was our leader coming into tonight.
Yeah, I've been told to use the term championship Incas here in the National Sim Racing Association. There's some backstory to that. I'm not 100% privy to it, but championship Incas for the number 50 machine here tonight of Bill Edwards. James Orello going to win the race off pit road in the number 9, right in front of Andrew Himmelman. And looks like Himmelman's going to split Lorello and Mitchell Adams. Doug Milliner, your pole sitter. Good job for that crew on pit road to get him out 4th. And Colin Ullery right there in the 62. He has that right side damage, but doesn't seem to be affecting him all too much at this present moment in time. But the big question is going to be, will we see Joey Doucette, Matt Vanderkoy, or the number 50 of Bill Edwards? There's someone else sitting on pit road. Oh, that's Joshua Sobel as well on pit road. And the Stay Tuned Sports Toyota Tundra definitely has had luck go against him. It did go his way last week at Charlotte, though, Drew, with a strategy call that he made. But here tonight, a very damaged truck here in the first quarter of the race.
Yeah, I think, especially after, you feel like, you did everything right the previous week. You have a ton of confidence going into the next race, even if it's not necessarily a track you feel particularly strong at or whatnot. But I think what really set this up for Joshua Sobel and his misfortune was, whatever happened in qualifying that we didn't quite catch, where that 30 truck got into the outside wall. Look, it seemed like it was on his first lap, and then obviously your second lap is going to be compromised at that point, and then that put him starting, I believe, in 28th out of 29 trucks. And then it's so hard to pass here at Indy. When you start at the back, when there's a wreck happening around you, it's really easy to get caught up, and that's what we saw from that 30 truck. So it's kind of one of those deals where, you can be unlucky, but sometimes you can make your own luck, and sometimes you can make your own misfortune in the case of that 30 truck here at Indianapolis.
Well, do want to make mention that under this caution, we did not have a Brookstone Lucky Dog Award winner. All the trucks were on the lead lap. However, in my opinion, Drew, we gave away this award last week to a driver who did not technically get a Lucky Dog. And this week, it's going to be the same driver right there in the number 47 machine. That is Chris Darling. And the reason why I'm unofficially giving him the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award is the fact that, remember, he had that drive-through penalty on lap number 1, so he lost a ton of time in that number 47 truck, and now he's going to be back with the lead pack. So keep an eye on Chris Darling, and we'll see what he can do working his way through the field in the Stadium Super Truck number 47 machine. But the pace truck lights are out, and Drew, we're about to take it back to green.
Here that pace truck goes, turning that hard left turn onto pit lane, and James Lorella will be leading Andrew Himmelman here once they get this thing going, and here he goes. James Lorella with a great restart, going to clear that outside lane before the start-finish line even, and actually that's going to help out Mitchell Adams, second in line there on the inside, going into turn 1. Indy's one of those places where typically, that inside lane is the way to go on restarts. You're going to be able to carry a ton of speed here, and that's exactly what we saw from that 49 truck, being able to get around that 4, as now we are looking at the battle for 4th position here, 4th and 5th, between Colin Ullery, who has shown quite a bit of pace here in that 62 truck. I think this is the most competitive that 62 has been on raw pace all year. And he was battling up there with the 6 of Doug Milner and that 24 Ben Mashburn. And now, once again, that 48 truck, that blue, white, and chartreuse truck kind of sneaking in the picture back there. Not the best starting position for Matt Cherry in that 48, started 13th, but, working his way up and solidly inside the top 10 now. And we'll see if that speed that we have seen from that 48 truck thus far is able to translate here at Indy. But out front, things have kind of calmed down. But this is what we saw initially in this race, right? After that initial start, we saw these guys kind of spread out as they got up to pace, and then they kind of bunched back together. And we'll see if that's the case here this time, Peter.
Yeah, that we will. And looks like Lorello and Mitchell Adams going to scoot away from the field just a little bit over Andrew Himmelman, who is currently riding in 3rd. But let's go a little bit further back in the pack, back to Robert Dudley as he's trying to work his way forward. Remember, Drew, we highlighted the fact that we were a bit surprised with Robert Dudley's qualifying time. He's picked up 9 positions from the start of the race. So definitely he's working his way forward. We mentioned how difficult it is to pass here tonight, but that's number 15 truck trying to move his way towards the top 10, battling with the number 16 of Nicholas Bradley, right? Excuse me, that's Brian Bradley in the number 16 there. A couple of the Bradleys here tonight, and look who's battling him for that 15 spot now. That's Chris Darling. There is Darling in that 47 truck. He's now having to fight with traffic for the first time here tonight. And Drew, what he's probably learning right now is how important clean air is on the nose, because he was back there by himself turning pretty good lap times from the looks of things, but just was 22, 25 seconds behind the lead pack, and now he's up with them and starting to make some moves.
Yeah, I bet that was actually pretty stress-free for that 47 truck. Indy, like Pocono, is one of those tracks where you can typically pit and not go a lap down if you're not quite a ways behind the leader. So if anything, I think that might have been not the worst thing to have happen, especially here at Indy, where it kind of takes you out of that main pack, which can be so chaotic early at Indy, and just removes you from the possibility of getting involved in one of those early wrecks that we just saw our points leader get taken out in, quite frankly. So good recovery though so far by that 47 truck, but I'm sure he is feeling the effects of that aero. Man, I'm just seeing some guys almost get into each other. These trucks look so tight. But that 47 truck, I'm sure, is definitely feeling how these things don't handle quite as well in traffic as they do by themselves. But we are just seeing how tight these trucks are. When they get side by side, that guy on the inside lane is really struggling to maintain that bottom groove. They really seem to be washing up, as we just saw that message there that 50 truck to the garage. I believe that will likely be day over for that 50. Our points leader coming into tonight, Bill Edwards.
Yeah, and also Matt Vander Kooi has also taken his car to the garage as we continue to watch the number 48 of Matt Cherry and Colin Ullery do battle for that sixth position as of right now, right in front of Jamar Dumas and Philip Scott in the number 44. So already Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard, claiming a couple of victims in the first 25 laps here tonight. And, one thing I'm noticing about Matt Cherry's truck, Drew, is it looks like there's also a little bit of front-end damage on that truck as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But look at all these trucks trying to break that draft down the front stretch. I love seeing them all fan out. It makes for a really cool look right there with this long look down the front stretch that we have and towards turn number 1. But as of right now, things calming down pretty much single file all the way through the field.
Yeah, that good old Indy 500 snake where you see guys just take their trucks all the way down to the bottom and then all the way back up right before they enter the corner. That was kind of cool to see. You don't see that nearly as much here on the stock car side of things. But I think with the aero effect of these trucks, it might be a good way, especially late in this race, to prevent that guy behind you from at least making a move mid straightaway and maybe make them have to check up, because I don't think you really want to be trying to pass guys for position on that outside lane, especially late in the race, because bad things can happen to you there. But what happened here? I believe that 44 might have gotten into the wall in 3 and 4 there, Peter.
Yeah, and we just got another quick look at it right there on the 3-wide TV replay. We'll see if we can go on board with him here, get one more look at this one. Here he is on board with the 44, working his way through turn number 4, right behind the 28 of Dumas. And, man, I don't know if he had a little bit of wiggle right there in the center of the corner, Drew, but it seemed like it just shot up towards the wall like a rocket, and that is a lot of heavy right front damage for that number 44. And Philip Scott, he was inside the top 10 when that happened, and now he's battling with Chris Darling for that 12th position, just trying to hold on. I'm sure he's going to try and get as much of that damage repaired as possible. Here's the scene of the incident just one lap ago, and looks like he's going to avoid the wall this time. That's typically the goal with these trucks here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because we mentioned it already once here tonight. Damage could spell an end to your competitiveness at this racetrack.
Yeah, it's not really like the contact that we saw to the 62 earlier, where he just barely got into it. That 44 took a heck of an impact to the right side. And if you've ever gotten into the wall in iRacing, especially with a tighter setup, you know that right side damage just makes you tighter. And quite frankly, it's going to make it easier to get sucked into making that same mistake later on, just because you're going to have more wheel into it. You're going to burn the right front up more because the truck's tighter, and then that's just going to make it easier to carry a little bit too much apex speed. Turn the truck in just a little too early, trying to get it down to the bottom, and then you push wide on exit and you get in that outside wall even harder. Hopefully that's not the case for that 44 truck, but it'll definitely be something to watch out for him as he just continues his free fall through the field, as I'm sure he is struggling with that truck now. But back out front, here we go. 24 of Ben Mashburn making a move on Andrew Himmelman in that 4 truck, and then quite a few trucks queued up behind him, as we are seeing this field kind of come back together a little bit, with the exception of our race leader, James Zarello, as you can see in the background in that last shot, is scooting away from these guys. But Ben Mashburn in that 24 looking to snag 3rd place, the last step of the podium, away from Andrew Himmelman, who has done an outstanding job keeping that 4 truck up front so far this race.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That number 4 of Himmelman has pretty much been in the top 3 all night long, but now comes under fire from that number 24 of Ben Mashburn. Here down the front stretch, and look at your Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner, Doug Milliner, right there trying to take it 3 wide. How about this, folks? 3 wide doesn't often work here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Something's got to give, and it is the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman, but Doug Milliner showing he's got some guts there in that Indianapolis Colts F-150, because he's going to go from 5th up to 3rd in one fell swoop. How about that? I'm sure Ben Mashburn's going, man, I thought I was going to get the third position, but he's back in the fourth position. And unfortunately for Andrew Himmelman, he goes from third back to fifth. And look at that move from that sun-kissed Chevy Silverado, slicing and dicing his way down the backstretch. He is desperate to get up to third.
Yeah, I think what kind of made that look even more dramatic was that was a heck of a block that 6 truck put on that 24 of Ben Mashburn. I don't think that Mashburn really appreciated that too much and then tried to take it to the outside of him, but ultimately that really didn't work, as I think that actually is likely going to cost that 24 truck a position. Here comes Philip Scott down pit road. Huge right front damage. I wonder if he's just going to try to get that fixed, hope for some cautions, and get back out there, because I am sure that 44 is not a lot of fun to drive right now. That right side is man, that does not look fun. I'll just put it that way. Here we go, looking down through the field where this battle is. This 13 truck, I believe, is, yep, right here down in 12th position. So this will be a battle for 12, as he, I believe, is actually trying to kind of stave off this. Well, actually, no. Jeff Price lost a few positions this lap. So Jeff Price was in 11th, actually 10th starting this lap, and now has fallen outside of the top 10. In fact, down to 12th. Oh, the 48 truck spinning right in front of the entire field. Is he going to be able to save it? Oh, there goes the Paul Bilson, the 51 truck. Oh, in front of the 16, and here we go. That's what Indy can do, just sending trucks right into the middle of the track as they bounce off the walls, and quite a few guys collected in that, Peter.
Yeah, that was absolute track blockage to the max here. Let's see this one here on this replay. The 48 and the 5 will go to 3-wide TV slow-mo, and there was definite contact. The 48 kind of went up the racetrack. I think the 5 went up the racetrack, but then the 4 kind of came off the wall. I mean, that's a hard one to call. Look at the 47, Chris Darling just sneaking through there, and it was on from there. The 48 tried to save it, but at that point, we already had drivers going around. There's the 51 of Bilson, and there's the 16 getting involved, and the 48 of Cherry getting that one again. We're definitely going to have to get another look at this one. Maybe go to the Blimp Cam, because this one, man, it really spiraled out of control here, Drew.
Yeah, just looking here, I believe this is from the 51's point of view. And then right there gets hooked by Dudley. Nothing the 15 could have done. He was trying to avoid that spinning 48 truck, and just unfortunately collects the 51 of Bilson. And then the 41, to top it all off, gets back into these guys. So, yeah, you see him just kind of weaving through. Like, I don't know quite what happened with those guys, but you see Bilson. Then he probably thinks he's good. And then that 15, just trying to dodge that 48 truck, just gets into his tailgate, and boom, 16 gets huge impacts in that 51. And then that 48, I think he did a really quick escape there. And I would be surprised if any of those 3 trucks were really able to keep going. But who are we on board here with, Pete?
This is with the number 40 of Nicholas Bradley, and he just basically has to lock him up and just grinds to a halt right behind the number 16 of Brian Bradley, and they're finally able to get things back going. But that was probably the biggest track blockage I've ever seen here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I don't think I've ever seen a wreck quite like that in all the years that I've both been racing and commentating here on 3-wide TV. So definitely going to be one to go down to the storybooks. Looks like the 84 TJ Buck elected to stay out here under this caution. Meanwhile, the rest of the field headed down pit road, and I don't blame them, because we've already highlighted the tire fall off is pretty drastic here tonight, and they're going to be led by that number 9 of James Lorello, coming down to his pit box right now. Going to get 4 fresh tires, I would believe. I don't expect to see anyone take just 2 tires, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. You never know. But the field's all currently behind the number 6, your pole sitter Doug Milliner right there. And now we're starting to see people leave their pit box, led by Lorello, the 49. And here comes Milliner once again. Great pit stop by that number 6 crew.
Yeah, and we will see. This might make this a 2-stop race from here. If these guys can go 23 laps, they'll be able to split the last portion, the last 70 laps here, into thirds. So that might mean 2 more pit stops for these guys. We will be able to see. I think we estimate that these guys can probably do around 20 laps. So we will see if they can stretch that out, especially with this fall off here. If they can stretch that out here to 23, and then they might be able to cut it to 2 pit stops. It'll be interesting to see what the pace difference is with this 84 truck compared to the guys that just got tires, because we have seen, quite frankly, a much greater fall off than at least I was expecting. I don't know if you were expecting darn near 2 seconds here in the span of about 15 laps, which is what we saw earlier. So we will see how this 84 fares, because he didn't quite, I think, have the pace that he was wanting. And we will see. Yes, he is taking that 84 truck to pit road, so maybe not as much. Are these guys going to come back down to pit road at 24 truck? Maybe. Man, we're seeing games being played here with these lead lap trucks. I wonder if these guys are right on the edge of making it with 2 stops, and then we might see some guys take a splash here late, especially if you're towards the back of this pack and you think you can make it on 2 more stops. If you take a splash right before the green flag, might be a good strategy.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing, Drew, that something like that might actually happen. Now, I am highlighting this man right here, the number 61 of Joey Doucette. I believe he is your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner under this caution. A lot of damage on that number 61 Mountain Dew, but pretty much everyone else behind him that are laps down, they're not on the racetrack anymore. And the trucks in front of them that are laps down, they were all involved in that accident. So that boils down to just Joey Doucette, your current Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog winner under the second caution flag of the night. In fact, if you're just now joining us, we've had a couple of lead changes here tonight, 4 different leaders around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll see if we can bring up that race summary. There you go, 2 cautions for 5 laps, 4 lead changes, and currently the fastest lap held by the number 48 of Matt Cherry. So a good start to the race here, Drew. Definitely been interesting here tonight, and it looks like we're about to go back green here in just a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Speaking of the 48 of Matt Cherry, interesting. I think Ben Adams got pinged, or at least took credit for that caution. I don't think it was necessarily the 5's fault. I thought the 48 almost got out of shape on the straightaway and came down on that 5, where the 5 kind of maybe came up a little bit. If anything, I would say that's a racing deal. Just very unfortunate for the 48, whereas the 5 was able to kind of squeak out of that and get through it okay. But, well, this 5 truck, I guess we're coming to green here, so I don't think that they'll quite be able to sneak down on pit road. But I was wondering if we had another lap, as the pace truck is pulling off here, and James Dorello once again leading the field down to the green flag. Another great restart for that inside lane, as we will see if that 6 truck can get up to the 49 of Mitchell Adams. I don't think he's going to have quite enough momentum here, but we'll see what Andrew Himmelman can do, who led quite a few laps here early on, slipped back just a little bit in that 4 truck, but has displayed quite a bit of speed as he gets a little out of the groove, a little out of shape through turn 1 and going into turn 2. How quickly will these guys kind of settle back into single file? And then how quickly will these guys bunch back up once again as Mitchell Adams making a move for the race lead?
Yeah, that number 49 machine up there at the front. He is going to take the race lead going off into turn number 3. So the 49, Mitchell Adams, back to the front. He has led a couple of laps here tonight. In fact, he's only led 2 laps here in the first 33 laps. James Dorello's led 21 of the first 32, I should say, but this time by make that 21 of the first 33. We do have a couple drivers coming down pit road. Some interesting ones there towards the back of the pack. TJ Buck right there, Steven Doziak, Philip Scott. And Drew, I'm wondering if some of these drivers are now within their window and are thinking, you know what, I'm just going to come down pit road. I'm just going to top off here, get a little bit of a splash, and maybe if we get another quick yellow, stay out and try and get some track position. This is kind of an interesting call.
Actually, this strategy has won me a race here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, at least similar to this. You know, playing this pit strategy, knowing that you can make a full pit stop here and not lose a lap, it really frees you up to do different things. Kind of play it, I mean, how many times has Larry McReynolds said this in real life? Playing this like it's a road course, you know, where you can kind of mix up your strategy, because typically you don't lose a lap. This 84 truck, I don't think he's in his pit box, though.
I don't know what's up with that. In fact, looks like Steven Doziak and Philip Scott, all of those trucks are just sitting on pit road. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with those trucks. Looks like the 84 is going to finally head back out there on the racetrack. Not sure if there was a black flag or something that they had to serve, but definitely interesting. Meanwhile, up the front, Mitchell Adams continuing to lead the way. James Lorello in second. Third, Doug Milliner and Andrew Himmelman, Colin Willery rounding out your top five. And Drew, one thing about the top five here tonight, has been really consistent in the first 34 laps. I mean, you could pretty much put Adams, Lorello, Milliner, Himmelman, and Willery in that top five, just kind of shuffle them around a couple positions, and that's about how this race has been. Definitely those five trucks have shown how fast they are, but one driver I'm keeping my eye on right now, the 47 machine, Chris Darling. There he is. Remember, he had that drive-through penalty on lap number 1. He has worked his way now up into the 8th position, trying to track down Jamar Dumas in the 28 for 7th.
Yeah, it's not terribly surprising. This 47 has been just one of those guys who's so consistent, so good on his stuff. During the longer runs, that typically is the type of driver who is rewarded here at Indy. So I would not be surprised to see this 47 truck move up inside the top 5. I'm interested to see what he can do with the 49 and the 9 truck, who seem to be so far really the class of the field when it comes to overall pace here. Now, that sometimes doesn't seem to matter here too much, as that 47 truck is able to dispatch Jamar Dumas without too much of a problem. And are my eyes playing tricks on me? Does that 47 maybe have a little bit of right front damage, Pete, or is that just me not quite seeing things correctly?
Well, we'll have to, next time he comes by the front stretch where we have our super zoom camera here on 3-wide TV, we'll see. I don't see any major damage on that number 47 truck as of right now. I think he's kept it nice and clean as he flashes by here on the backstretch. And I think that's going to bode well for him, because there are a couple of trucks in front of him, including Colin O'Leary, who have made contact with the outside wall in the first portion of this race. Look at Ben Mashburn in the 24 Sunkist Chevrolet. He's all over the back of O'Leary here. But what we're starting to see is a little bit of a gap develop between your front two and your third place of Doug Milliner, the Indianapolis Colts Ford F-150. The highest F-150 in the field here tonight. There aren't a whole lot of them. There you see Colin O'Leary also sporting the Ford F-150. But the highest place Toyota Tundra right now is the number 49 of Chris Darling, who's 47 of Chris Darling, I should say. Definitely he has got himself into a pretty good position as this battle here, as looks like Himmelman's been shuffled back. Ullery made the move, and now Mashburn's going to make the move. So Himmelman now back to 6th in the number 4, and now here comes the 47 of Darling, who we've been keeping our eyes on.
Yeah, the 47 kind of got checked up by that 62 truck, and that cost him 2 spots, as both the teammates of Ben Mashburn and Chris Darling were able to sneak by him there. Again, Chris Darling just kind of slowly, methodically making his way up through the field, taking advantage of just small mistakes by guys like, quite frankly, Colin O'Leary is the guy who I think kind of maybe missed his corner just a little bit and then caused the 4 to check up. And then Chris Darling just says, yes, sir, thank you very much. I will take that spot. As Robert Dudley, one of those guys that we were talking about, didn't quite have the qualifying pace that he wanted up into 8th, and might I say, was part of that big wreck on the front stretch that we saw. Just luckily was kind of able to get through it without too much damage. He is showing quite a bit of pace here, as all the way inside the top 10 from outside of the top 20 starting position. Only lap 40 here at Indy. I know that the distance at Indy is so big, and the lap times certainly are not short, but 40 laps is still not a lot of time to make your way up from 24th into the top 10 there, Peter. Is once again James Lorello showing his longer run pace over that 49 truck, and he is making a move to the inside of Mitchell Adams, and I believe he will get him in turn 1, Peter.
Yeah, Lorello in the preferred lower groove as they dive off into turn number 1, but we've seen Mitchell Adams hold tough out there on the high line, and looks like he's going to do so again here. Look at Doug Milliner now starting to creep up into the picture. These two running side by side. That will definitely bring him to their back bumper, and still side by side. They've been side by side now for about 3/4 of a lap, and Milliner might he take this opportunity to take it 3 wide if there was probably only 3 laps to go? Yes, he would, but he thinks a little bit better of it with still over half the race remaining, and they're going to go go single file, I should say, with Lorello finally getting back up to the point. He has already led 22 laps here in the race, about to make it 23 of the first 40 laps. And again, that snake here down the front stretch, I absolutely love to see it at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, that trying to break that arrow effect certainly is entertaining, as we have a truck stopped there on the entrance access road. I don't know who that was. I wonder if is that the 61 truck. I wonder if he had a bit of a problem there. Joey Doucette. That truck has a ton of damage. I know he was involved in that wreck on the front stretch, but seems like he was trying to get that thing to go back racing, and it just didn't quite want to do that anymore. But meanwhile, out front, all this battling for second position has James Lorello, walking away from these guys, as Doug Milner and that Indianapolis Colts number 6 truck trying to get back around Mitchell Adams. We saw that 49 so quick early in the run. I wonder if he just might have burned up his stuff just enough to where these guys around him are able to kind of start tracking him down, running him down. And there we go. Chris Darling drive through on lap 1, goes to dead last, way behind the field, and is now up inside the top 5 as the 6 truck is way out of the groove there. He's going to have to get out of the throttle, and that 47 might be getting 2 trucks into 2 corners here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He is certainly going to have a good run out of the corner. Man, that's close racing out of turn 2 and down the backstretch, but Chris Darling has the momentum, and if he wants it, he could take it right now, but I think he's going to be a little bit more courteous and give that 6 just a little bit of room, and he's to arc it into 3 and then take that spot away from him. Is actually that 6 truck, I think, is about to lose about 3 positions there, as these guys, once again, as we get into this run, it is bunched up here towards the tail end of the top 10. Mashburn, he's going to lose it in front of the field. I think that was the 15. The 13 all get into the inside wall here, and that's quite a few guys with quite a bit of pace that have damage.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go back and see this one here on the 3-wide TV replay. We'll go to our Pagoda cam to see if we can see what happened. Looks like the 24 and the 6 just made contact. The 24 comes up the racetrack right in front of Dudley, and it looks like Jordan Shepler in the number 13 as well also got quite a bit of damage. We'll go back and get one more look at this one. Perhaps we'll go on board here with the number 13 machine coming out of turn number 4 right here. There's that initial contact, and man, this is crazy not to bring out a caution, but there's Shepler making that contact with the inside wall. That's a pretty difficult one to call there, Drew, because we'll get one more final look at this to see if we can see what kind of happened. It looks like the 24 he got tight coming out of the corner, and look at the 4 of Andrew Himmelman there just avoiding it. The 6 made us a little bit of contact, and unfortunately for Ben Mashburn, that is going to be significant amount of damage here. He's still out there on the racetrack. There he is, but you can see he's currently in 11th. But got a bunch of trucks lining up behind him. Here comes Ray Heilig in the number 7 TikTok Chevrolet to just drop to the bottom. He's going to make it look easy here. So move Mashburn now back to 12th, and I think he's going to continue sliding through the field here, Drew. Yeah,
that 24 truck, yeah, you can see just the pace, the speed in a straight line. You can see how down that 24 truck is. Yeah, that's what can happen here at Indy. The exit of these corners just can be so tricky for what looks, from, if you just drew this track on a piece of paper, it looks so straightforward, compared to Darlington or some of these like more tricky ovals. Twin Ring Motegi, which we're going to be going to later in the season. Indy looks so straightforward, but the exits at turns 2 and 4, even though, in my opinion, those turns drive quite a bit differently, the exit at turn 4, like we just saw, if you're just a little bit tight, you can go from thinking, I might be a little too high, but I'm okay, to all of a sudden, I am not okay, and you have to get out of that throttle, and then the guys come running up behind you and can't really react in time, and that's, I think, exactly what we saw between Ben Mashburn and that 6 truck. I think the 24 just had to get out of the throttle because he just realized, I'm going to smash this wall if I stay in the throttle, and then the 6 just is left trying to react in an unrealistic amount of time, and then that's kind of what happens. These guys get into each other, and then, like we talked about, this front road, this front stretch is so narrow because of pit road that it can really just limit your options as to where to go.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I think you absolutely nailed it, and some of the fans got to see just how tricky this racetrack is when we rode on board there with your current race leader, the number 9 of Lorello, who's continuing to make it look easy, but the battle for second is heating up. There's the number 47 of Chris Darling. And big shout out to Chris Darling, had that drive-through penalty. We've been watching him continue his march towards the front, and here he's got a nose to the inside of Mitchell Adams. And Chris Darling going to now have that preferred line in turn number 3, but can Mitchell Adams hold on here through the south? I believe this is the south end of the racetrack, if memory serves me correctly. And now it looks like Chris Darling is going to take that position and move up into second. So Chris Darling's march toward the front continues. And Drew, one thing he told me in the week was he felt really, really good about Charlotte last week. He felt like he might have had that race in the bag at one point, but it wasn't meant to be. And he's felt like he's had a couple of races. I think back to Richmond, where he was very fast in the 47. Just hasn't quite been able to put it all together beyond Talladega. So Chris Darling hoping to have a good run here, but we still have a long race to go, 54 laps. But good news is, Drew, we're closing in on the halfway mark, and we've been green now for quite some time. We're probably about 4 to maybe 7 laps away from drivers headed down pit road for what might be possibly their penultimate pit stop. We'll have to wait and see just how long they can go. We don't have an exact number, but I take that back. We do have an exact number, because here comes Mitchell Adams. This is 17 laps, Drew, since he was last on pit road. We'll bring up the pit info up there at the top of your screen. Lorello, Darling, Price, they're all going to stay out there on the racetrack, but Mitchell Adams, Colin Ullery, and a bunch of others headed down pit road right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit shorter, I think, than both of us were expecting here. Unfortunately for a lot of these guys' strategy, I think if they could have, quite frankly, if you can make it in 2 more stops here, what's the point in staying out more? You're just really losing time. We'll see if Chris Darling and James Zarello have been saving their stuff, because they're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage if they are stuck to the same strategy that 49 is. And yep, here comes James Zarello. Chris Darling's going to stay out, and as we mentioned, you're not going a lap down if you're the leader and you pit, right? You're just not. So there's not really a ton of advantage in staying out. You really just risk, almost like in F1, where if you stay out, the rest of those guys pit and you have a safety car, you're going to the tail end of that line. If you have to pit, that's what's going to happen to Chris Darling if this caution comes out. So and if it doesn't, he's still losing 2 seconds a lap. Or darn near in that 47 truck. So we'll see. Can Chris save fuel? Is that been his strategy? Is that what he's been working on? Because if he's not, I got to really question as to why he's staying out right now.
Yeah, without a doubt, that number 47 truck, I think he'll be hitting pit road here very shortly. In fact, let's see if he heads to pit road this time. Again, we'll bring up the driver info, bottom left-hand corner. Yes, he does. Now, of course, he had a pit road speeding penalty last week, I believe, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and down to 60 miles an hour right there. You can see the speed down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So that's good news. He's down at pit road speed. Doesn't look like he's going to get a pit road speeding penalty here. Let's go through the field and see if there was any pit road speeding penalties under this sequence of green flag pit stops, because that is always something that we do want to highlight here on 3 Wide TV, and it looks like I'm not seeing any as of now. So that's the good news throughout the field. We'll see if we can go a little bit further back. Looks like Ben Mashburn's finally coming down pit road, but it looks like Mitchell Adams here in the 49. We mentioned the fact that Mitchell Adams came down pit road, I believe, 1 lap before the number 9 of Lorello. He did indeed, and now he's got a pretty nice advantage in that number 49 machine. You can see that in the left-hand corner of your screen, about 2.5 seconds, Drew. That's what you were talking about earlier about this fall-off.
Yeah, Indy is not a track that I recall the fall-off being really severe. Like, this is more like kind of Darlington, Old Charlotte, Atlanta type fall-off, where Rockingham, where it's like a cheese grater surface. This is not that typically at Indy, but we are seeing a ton of fall off. I wonder if that is the tight nature of tonight's setup, if that's just causing that right front to wear out, which is really hindering these guys' ability to be able to get back to the gas on these long green runs, because they're running mid 155s late in runs, and Mitchell Adams just turned a 52.9 to give you perspective into the difference in the pace. So it'll be interesting, though. We've seen Mitchell Adams kind of struggle relative to his peers at the front of the field over these longer green runs, and now he has a lap older tires than James Lorello, 2 lap older tires than the 47 of Chris Darling. Are these guys going to start to be able to make inroads to that 49 truck? Are they going to be able to do that by these next round of pit stops? And are they going to not kind of repeat what happened here in this round by pitting either on the same lap or in Chris Darling's case, not 2 laps after? We saw pit stops last weekend are essentially what won Mitchell Adams the race. That's what allowed him to get in front of James Lorello, control that race late when there was a spate of cautions, control those restarts, and ultimately that's what sent that 49 to victory lane. We've seen how much of a difference this can be, even if overall the pace might be quicker by staying out and getting those fresher tires kind of later in a run. I think that when you're in the lead, when you're in control, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, we'll bring up the previous lap times up there at the top of the screen so you can kind of follow along. But James Lorello a little bit faster than Mitchell Adams over the last few laps. He has dispatched the number 15 of Robert Dudley as well, who is now a lap down. Of course, Dudley got quite a bit of damage in that number 15 truck. I'm keeping my eyes. Looks like we're down to 17 trucks on the lead lap. That was, I think, Brian Bradley coming off pit road that we got a quick look at. There he is. And Robert Dudley, the number 15 machine. We were just mentioning his name, and the engine of that truck has gone kaput. So you'll bring it down here on the bottom side of the racetrack, trying to stay off of the racing surface, brings it to a halt. Hopefully it doesn't bring out a caution flag, but just like that, Robert Dudley's night appears to be done here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tough luck for that number 15. Drew, why don't we go through the field here? Why don't you take it away, starting with the number 49 of Mitchell Adams?
Yeah, as Peter just said, our leader, Mitchell Adams, in that 49 truck, great job there with the pit strategy, able to really gap James Lorello, who probably has had a little bit better pace over the course of the first half, the first 125 miles, 50 laps. But that 9 truck going to be looking to run him down. James Lorello in second position behind this bright pink truck that we are riding on board with. Now, the yellow truck with the awesome orange roll cage, the number 9. 3-time winner, as we have mentioned several times tonight, of James Lorello. So much pace throughout this race. We'll see if that tire advantage will ultimately pay off for him. Kind of I don't want to say a surprise third place because he has been so quick all night, but I think when we saw this 62 truck of Colin Ullery there in third get into that wall really early in the race, I think that's never a good thing to do. But here he is having a great round of pit stops, has really moved up back through the field where he started up in 4th position and is currently running P3. The 4 of Andrew Himmelman, another guy who started up front, led a bunch of laps, currently in 4th. He slid back down the field kind of through the right around the 3rd mark of the race, and then he's kind of made his way back up. And then not too far behind him, Chris Darling, quite frankly, horrible round of pit stops, went from being right behind the leader to almost, actually beyond 8.5 seconds, to the rear of Mitchell Adams. So Chris Darling, not a great round of pit stops, has pretty good pace, but he's so far back at this point that the 47 certainly was not helping out his race when that happened. And then behind him, that 28 truck in 6th position of Jamar Dumas. about 9.5 seconds back. Kind of a nice, comfortable position, not really racing anybody. Having a really solid night. Started 6th, running 6th. We've seen him pretty consistently in the top 10 here. Behind him, the 14 of Jeff Price started 14th in that 14 truck. New scheme for Jeff here at Indy. Started 14th, running 7th. Pretty consistent run so far, kind of the right outside the top 10, just inside the top 10. I think 7th is about as high as we've seen him on true pace. The 32 truck of Peter Certo is right behind Jeff, who is currently battling Ben Adams right behind him. Both these trucks actually started, kind of close to each other. Peter Certo in 17th, Ben Adams in 12th. So good job by these two making their way up through the field. I think Ben Adams has been really, really quick thus far. He was the recipient of that end of longest line penalty that he received for his part of that first big front stretch crash that we had that involved Paul Bilson and Matt Cherry, amongst others. And so nice recovery there from Ben Adams. Running behind these two, rounding out our top 10, will be Raymond Heilig in that 7 TikTok truck, which I love that paint scheme. That sponsor might not be exactly my thing, but I don't care. That truck's awesome. I love that blue and kind of, I don't know, what would you call that? Cyan? I'm not aquamarine. I don't know. It's awesome, whatever it is. He's running the last truck in the top 10, started 15th. Pretty solid run from Ray. Done a good job. I know he's been in the near proximity of a few wrecks and has done a good job making sure he didn't get caught up in those. The 40 of Nicholas Bradley behind him in 11th. Jeffrey Johnson Jr. behind both of them there in that black and blue truck in 12th. Monty Glover behind these guys. The 10 truck is 13th. Aaron Mack 14th. And then rounding out our top 15, kind of disappointing. Our pole sitter, Doug Milner, we talked to him right before the green flag about what he wanted to achieve in this race, and he wanted to stay out of the early trouble and get a good run. Well, I mean, he did that for the most part. Did get caught up with Ben Mashburn there on that incident on the front stretch, but definitely did not come out worse for wear of those trucks that's involved, though it does look like he has a little bit of right front damage, but certainly not the race that he was hoping for here as we approach the 60-lap mark, Pete.
Yeah, and you can see a little bit of right front damage on that Ford F-150 from that contact, and he definitely had a long pit stop on pit road to try and get some of that damage repaired, and that is why he is down in the 15th position. Hopefully he can rally back from that. Meanwhile, up at the front, it does look like James Lorello starting to make some inroads on the race lead once again. You can see right there at the bottom of your screen. Last time by, Lorello was about 6 to 7 tenths of a second faster than Mitchell Adams. We'll see what it's like this time by. And again, looks like Lorello going to take off a pretty big chunk out of that race lead. That number 9 is absolutely flying. We have had a change of position for 4th. Chris Darling got around Andrew Himmelman while we were going through the field, so move him up into 4th. And Jeff Price got around Jamar Dumas to get up into the 6th position. So we were mentioning, Drew, that we thought 7th was the highest we'd seen Jeff Price all night. Well, he's going to do one better than that now in 6th position. So big shout out to him. Really coming alive here now into the second half of the race. But you guys watching this battle for the race lead, you can visibly see that number 9 machine is closing on Mitchell Adams. And as soon as he gets to him, Drew, I don't think it's going to take all too long for him to get back to the race lead.
Yeah, I think even if Mitchell Adams really wanted to contest this race lead, I just don't think he's going to be able to do much, about throwing up a defense to that 9. Just so much more cornering speed that 9's able to hold is, yeah, you can just see he's just waiting, trying to set up this pass, gets a good run out of turn 2, takes that 9 truck to the inside of that 49 and is carrying quite a bit of momentum. And I if I was the 49, I don't think I would put up too much of a fight here going into turn 3. There's guys like Chris Darling, who when I was going through him on the rundown was 8.6 seconds behind that 49 truck. That is now down to 4.8 seconds. So I know we are not really approaching pit stops, but I think that within the next 10 laps, I think we're going to start seeing pit stops. So we're seeing what we've been seeing so far from this 49, in that he is exceptionally quick for probably the first 7 to 10 laps of a run. And then we start to see that changeover happen where that 9 truck really starts to excel and starts to just put the pressure on that 49 truck, and ultimately has been able to pretty consistently get around that 49 truck as the runs develop. And then we'll see what James Zarello can do and how far he can stretch this lead out coming into this next pit stop, and then what he does with pit strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be interesting to see. And Drew, just to highlight your point about pit stops coming up, we saw a 17-lap run under that last pit cycle for drivers like Mitchell Adams and a couple of others. This is their 15th lap by the pit road. Remember, that was we had that caution lap there when we had that last green flag run. So you would think that they'll be coming on pit road possibly as early as this time by, with 38 laps to go. They're getting close to that window, Drew. They might want to go, another lap if they can kind of fathom it. But we have had a pass. We just missed it. Chris Darling in the number 47, he's got himself back up to third. And remember, he's one of those drivers. In fact, he was, I think, the last driver pretty much on pit road in that number 47 machine. So he's got a little bit fresher tires than the cars or the trucks in front of him, and also a little bit more fuel in that tank. So we know that Darling should be able to make it on only one more pit stop from whenever he comes down pit road next. So 2 more pit stops from this very point. But it looks like Lorello, Mitchell Adams, and Chris Darling will stay out another lap here. And you can see, looks like Lorello is starting to turn on the jets, now up over a second race lead here at Indy.
Yeah, I think these guys are going to be at least trying to get to 36 to go. I think that puts them in a fairly comfortable pit window. I think that they will likely is a strong word. That I think that if you can make it to 36 to go, you'll only have 2 18-lap runs there. And I think that that's a little bit more comfortable for them. But we'll see. Mitchell Adams might have kind of painted himself pit stop. And actually, Chris Darling might be in a pretty good situation. We'll see. I think the 49 now ducking onto pit road as we speak. I am watching it right now. So I don't think Mitchell Adams is going to be able to make it. Although Chris Darling follows him down pit road, as quite a few of our leaders now making their pit stops.
Yeah, that is definitely very interesting to see here with 36 laps to go. Because, at this point of the race, you're now going to have to go 18 laps or so. I mean, we did see, I think, Chris Darling go 19, but you have to think about the fact that Chris Darling went 19 laps with a little bit of caution to help him. So perhaps 18 is the magic number here tonight, Drew. Going to be a little bit close for some of these drivers, but we're watching James Zarello see whether or not he comes down pit road here. It's been 17 laps since he came down pit road last time. Is he going to stay out? Looks like yes, he's going to stay out another lap here, Drew. So it will be probably 34 laps to go, and we know that he will be in the pit window for sure.
Yeah, I got to imagine James Zarello feels pretty confident. I would hope, quite frankly, that he comes down pit road this time by. But I got to assume that Chris Darling was paying attention enough to know that this is the fuel limit, because he definitely could have run further than James Zarello did, and he just chose to come down early. So it'll be interesting to see with that 47, whether he just got a little excited or he, in fact, did know the math and did know that he could make it. Because if that's the case, then I wonder why James Zarello's staying out, quite frankly. But we shall see. It's hard to tell when you're not driving these trucks exactly what kind of fuel mileage you can get. But we know James Zarello will be able to make it, as yes, he is staying tight on the exit of 4, and he is coming down pit road as well.
Yeah, you see some other trucks on pit road, and there is your race leader, James Lorello, looking for any pit road speeding penalties as of right now. Don't see any. Brian Bradley in the number 16 has taken his truck behind the wall. Same thing with Ben Mashburn, Robert Dudley, Joey Doucette, Paul Bilson, Matt Cherry, Joshua Sobel. Your points leader coming in tonight, Bill Edwards, Matt Vanderkoy, also all in the garage here tonight. So 21 trucks. In fact, excuse me, Brian Bradley's actually going back out there in the racetrack, so that's good news. 21 of the 29 trucks still running here tonight, and here is James Lorello in the number 9 on pit road. One truck still continuing to stay out there on the racetrack. That is Monty Glover. Monty Glover in that number 10, you see him right there. He's working his way around the racetrack. It has been, by my math, 17 and a half laps since we saw him on pit road. So we know, Drew, he can make it 18 laps on fuel. We know that drivers like the 47 of Chris Darling, he needs to go 18 laps on fuel twice to make it to here to the end. Same thing with the number 49. So going to be fun to see how this all sorts out. There is Mitchell Adams in that number 49 truck. It looks like he's going to assume the race lead when Monty Glover and Aaron Mack, who also is yet to come down pit road. There's Chris Darling. He's actually going to inherit second position. James Lorello in the number 9, though, he will drop to third, but he is on those fresher tires, and watch him close in on your top 2. You can see the 49 right there, bottom of your screen, just gone off the screen, and the 47 right there in the middle with the number 13 of Jordan Schepler, who is going to go one lap down in the truck, kind of splitting the number 9 and the 47. But nonetheless, I can't take anything away from what the number 9 is doing here. He's back in third, but we know he was very, very fast on the long run last time. Just watch him. I think he's going to close in, but catching him is one thing, passing him is another.
Yeah, that certainly tends to be the case here, especially with these trucks. He has 6 seconds between he and Mitchell Adams. We saw Mitchell Adams was so good getting on and off pit road last week, and ultimately I think that's what at least led him to being in a better position to win the race than James Lorello. So it's all it's all work to do, so to speak, for that 9 truck to be able to regain that race lead, but he does have much fresher tires. He was quite a bit faster, I believe about 3 or 4 tenths quicker that last lap than Mitchell Adams, but it's certainly that's a tall order, regardless of a pace difference, to be able to run down the leader from third place at 5.7 seconds. Chris Darling there that last time by, yeah, you see that pace difference right there, 0.3 of a second between second and third, and then a pretty similar pace difference, I would imagine, between first and third. So James Lorello has the speed. Does he have the time? We know that he's probably more comfortable with pit strategy. I don't anticipate him staying out 2 laps longer this next time by, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, we're right on board right now with Chris Darling running in the second position, just about a second in front of James Lorello. And I'm keeping my eyes on lap times. Lorello again, fastest truck out there on the racetrack, about 0.3 of a second again this last time by. So Lorello definitely on a charge. How long will it be until he gets up to the back bumper of the 49 of Mitchell Adams? It won't be long till he catches Chris Darling, that is for sure. Got to give a huge shout out to the chat here tonight. It's been really active. Haven't had the opportunity all too much to go over there and look at it all too much with all the action that's been going out there on the racetrack. But huge shout out to Jason Bean, very active in the chat here tonight. Tana Himmelman as well. Barrett Lee saying the number 9 is relentless right now. He is relentless. You can see him right there closing in on the 47 of Chris Darling once again. In fact, that was the second gap between those two. Now it's down to just about half a second. Mr. Moondog 88, Michael Mooney saying old guy racing. Come on, old guys. I'll tell you what, you guys definitely know how to get your way around the racetrack. We've also had JT in the chat here as well. So if you're in the chat, make sure you make yourself heard as we continue to watch James Lorello slowly but surely closing in on your race leader, or not the race leader, but second place of the 47 of Chris Darling. I mean, he is closing in on the race leader as well, but The number 49 is just a little dot in front of this number 9 machine, at least for now. And Lorello here gets a run coming out of turn number 4. Looks like he's just going to dive to the inside. Looks like he's going to make it look easy down the front stretch here, Drew.
Yeah, he's just been so good at setting up these passes down the front stretch. Sometimes it can be really frustrating. You can be a lot quicker than the guy in front of you, but if you're not quicker at the right spots, it kind of doesn't matter, right? You can't really pass a guy if you're not quicker than them on the straightaway. It's going to be really, really difficult to pass them if you're just quicker through the corner, and yet your exit speeds are the same. So really good job so far by the 9 of James Morello in setting up these passes. We saw it. We saw him do it so well, battling that 49 truck earlier on. Speaking of that battle, this last time by, James Morello 53 for Mitchell Adams 54 flat. So a 0.6 of a second right around there. The pace difference between our front 2 trucks, and it's been pretty consistently between a half a second and a full second differences. Now we're riding on board here with the 32 of Peter Certo, Ben Adams 8th and 9th position. These guys have been battling each other for quite a while now. The last time we went through the field, they were battling each other, and they're still battling each other, and that was 20-ish laps ago at this point, just past halfway when we did that this last time. So they cannot seem to get away from each other there for 8th and 9th, but that's sometimes how these races work out, where you might not be the guy that's winning or a threat to win the race, but you just keep battling the same guys all night there at maybe the tail end of the top 10, and you guys become pretty well known to each other by the end of the race.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Peter Certo in that number 32, very strong here tonight. We've got Peter John Certo, Peter's father, in the chat as well. So definitely made sure to check in on Peter Certo right there running in the 9th position. And also, good run for the 33 right here. That's Jeffrey Johnson Jr. He is working his way around the racetrack inside the top 10 right there, about 2 seconds or so behind Peter Certo, and I'm keeping an eye on when these drivers last came down pit road. It looks like Jeffrey Johnson Jr. came down pit road 9 laps ago. Peter Certo, Ben Adams 8 laps ago. And in fact, Ben Adams and Peter Certo closing in just a little bit on the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman, who has been struggling here as of late, but he does have about 6 seconds of an advantage over Ben Adams. So that's the good news for Andrew Himmelman. In fact, I take that back. It's only 2 seconds. I was looking to the gap in front of him, which is 6 seconds to Jamar Dumas, who's very solidly put himself in the 6th position. Jeff Price, how about that, Drew? He's now up into the 5th position in the number 14. So definitely Jeff Price, highest we've seen him all night, now inside the top 5.
That's definitely what you hope to do as a driver, when it gets down to now the last 26 laps of the race. That's hopefully when you are running at your best, and that's certainly what we're seeing from that 14 truck, who this seems to be his MO for these races, is really running at his best later in these things. That's how he was able to win at Vegas earlier, and that seems to just be what he's been doing. He's been so quick at so many of these races late, but here we are, teammates, the 4 and the 5 truck battling for 7th and 8th. The Ben Adams has been, geez, man, that I thought I read that wrong. Over a second quicker than Andrew Himmelman. I wonder what that 4 truck is dealing with, because he sure seems to be struggling.
Yeah, I think we can see it right there, Drew. Right front damage on the Sim Racing shirt Chevy Silverado, and I think that right front damage is definitely hurting that number 4 here in the long run. And look at that, the number 5 just flashed on by, made it look easy. Andrew Himmelman really struggling with that truck right now. He's going to fall into the clutches of Peter Certo here very, very shortly. That will be a battle for the 8th position. Peter Certo, much like Jeff Price here, making his way up through the field nice and neatly here in the last now quarter of the race, as we have 25 laps to go.
Yeah, if I were the crew chief to that 4 truck, I would say, hey, I know you're struggling right now. There's not that many laps to go. We're in the last quarter of the race. You have 16 seconds to 11th position. What I would be shooting for if I were that Ford truck is, hey man, you got in the wall, you got some damage, but you have more than enough time to be able to still bring home a solid top 10, which seems like a victory when those types of things happen. But yeah, you're not mistaken, viewers. This absolutely is the gap between our leaders. 0.6 of a second, which has almost been the average closing rate of James Zarello. So I think by the time we get to the start-finish line, that might be 0.1 of a second. As look at this 9 truck, get this late apex, and get this huge run out of turn 4. Here he comes. I think I might be right. It might be negative 0.1 of a second. As here comes James Zarello taking the lead. Will grab the lead here with just 23 laps to go.
Yeah, once again, James Zarello back up to the front advantage. Number 9, without a doubt, he's got fresher tires. He's back up to the race lead. Now the big question is going to be Chris Darling. Can he run down Mitchell Adams in the number 49? There he is in that Toyota Tundra. 23 laps to go. I expect these trucks on pit road in about 5 laps from now, with 18 laps to go when they will be making what will presumably be their final pit stop of the night, barring a caution flag coming out. But it has been great to see a lot of green flag pit stops here tonight. And Drew, I've been keeping an eye on pit road speeding penalties. I really haven't seen any here tonight, which is, oh man, the number 9 making a big lunge underneath the number 2 of Justin White, who will fall 1 lap down. He'll be the first truck to be 1 lap down in the 15th position. But I haven't seen any pit road speeding penalties, and that is a big change from what we've seen over the last couple of races, Drew, where we've seen a lot of pit road speeding penalties. So I'm guessing these drivers have been practicing getting on and off pit road as to not get penalties and not shoot themselves in the foot. Whoa, man, the 47 of Darling really came up on the 2 really quick there. The 2 getting out of the way and getting out of the way of that 3-truck battle for the race lead here now with 22 to go.
Yeah, I think Indy, especially in these trucks, which have quite a bit of downforce, which means quite a bit of braking power. They don't carry, they don't have an incredible amount of horsepower. I think that this is probably a pretty straightforward pit road entry for these guys, so that probably lends itself to that. It can be a little enticing to get a little too deep, but I think that if you had a pit road speeding penalty rather, the previous race, you tend to be more mindful that next race is now that 49 truck losing second position to Chris Darling, and we'll see that 49. It seemed like he was really falling off, and then when he got to second, he didn't lose too much to James Zarello, but he really struggled getting through 1 and 2 there on the outside, and that cost him quite a bit of time. And now it's, will these guys be able to make it to 17 to go? These guys being Chris Darling and Mitchell Adams. We know that James Zarello stayed out 2 laps longer, and that Chris Darling and Mitchell Adams have 18 laps that they're going to have to do on this run. Will they be able to do that? That's about as long as we have seen from any of these guys under pure green flag conditions, so they are right on that limit.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing I'm wondering is if the 49 and Mitchell Adams might be saving a little bit of fuel, Drew, because we saw him had that big advantage over Lorello, and then it kind of dissipated very quickly. It just disappeared into thin air. Of course, it is Halloween tomorrow, so ghostly things here happening at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But same thing with Chris Darling. I'm wondering if he's having to save any fuel here, as Lorello now starting to scoot away up to 0.9 of a second lead, but Darling not letting him get too far out front. Got to give a huge shout out to Darling coming back from that lap 1 penalty that he had, drive-through penalty. Came down at 60 miles an hour under green flag conditions. He absolutely hated to see it, but he gave himself that penalty as he is one of the league admins. Looks like the 62 Colin Ullery coming down pit road. And Drew, this is a little bit early. 19 laps to go. I think it's going to be difficult here for Ullery to make it to the end, at least from what we've seen here tonight. The only trucks that have made it 19 laps have required a little bit of yellow flag. Looks like the 4 of Andrew Himmelman also electing to come down pit road here on 3 White TV.
Yeah, I would have certainly been trying to save fuel. I don't think these guys are going to be able to make it. I don't think if you pitted this next lap, quite frankly, you would at least be able to not have to save gas. So I definitely think that this 62 and the 4 truck in quite a bit of trouble here, as I thought, yes, here comes Chris Darling. I thought he was keeping a little tight. 19 laps to go here for this 47 truck. He did not do 19 laps this time, this run. So this is a big ask for this 47 truck, but I think the 49, yes, the 49 truck following that 47 truck. So our second and third place trucks here on pit road.
Yeah, and you know, you have to think 18 laps to go now. It was 18 laps that they made it on fuel. So I don't, oh man, Mitchell Adams overshooting his pit stall. And I think maybe even the 47 might have overshot his pit stall as well. So, you know, getting down to pit road speed limit, that's only half the battle here. You got to be able to get in your pit box nice and neatly. And you can see it looks like the 47 had a slow getaway as well. Here is the number 9 machine. James Lorello, your race leader. He's trying to get everything he can to get onto pit road. He gets right there behind the number 6, your pole sitter here tonight. Doug Milliner definitely hasn't been the night he was hoping it was going to be at the top of the show after getting some into some contact there out on the racetrack. But Lorello on pit road. Jeff Price in the number 14 right behind him. Ben Adams in the number 5. He's electing to come down pit road. So pit road here, very, very busy. There's Peter Serto getting down to the pit road speed. So definitely going to be interesting to see exactly how this all pans out. There's the number 9 in his pit box right now. He's going to just wait for them to drop the left side jacks as the crew goes to work. He's going to get 4 fresh tires, and I don't see any other driver electing to stay out here. So, Drew, now the big question is going to be, where does he come out relative to the 49 and the number 47? There they are. There is Chris Darling. There is the 49 of Mitchell Adams. And as you can see, James Lorello, he's caught a little bit behind the number 6 of Milliner. How's that affecting this? Because I expect to see the number 47 flash on by. And what about the number 49? Looks like the number 9 of Lorello is going to slot in third. He has 1 lap fresher tires. That's going to be to his advantage. But battle on for the win here at Indy.
Yeah, I was wondering coming into pit lane, you know, you get stuck behind a couple guys that aren't going to be pushing as hard, quite frankly, on the exit of pit road. And I don't think that number that number 6, I couldn't remember if it was a 6 or a 9. When you're looking at the roof, you can get confused as to which way drivers orientate their numbers. But that 6 truck, our pole sitter of Doug Milliner, he doesn't have as much of a vested interest in really getting everything out of that truck. And I was wondering if that was going to cost James Zorello, and it did a little bit, but he's still right there. I mean, we saw him run down a much bigger lead this last run. He is right behind that 49 truck of Mitchell Adams, right on his tailgate. Oh, almost a little bit of contact there coming out of turn 2. But James Zorello with quite a bit of a run, not as big of a run as we have seen before, but more than enough to get even with that 49 truck. How are they going to be able to make turn 3, Pete?
That number 9 machine is just going to flash on by, and now the battle for the race lead is between Chris Darling and Lorello. Lorello now all over the back tailgate of that number 47, and looks like Lorello is going to try and make quick use of those tires because he's going to try and get back to the race lead here going across the yard of bricks. James Lorello had his nose in front of the 47. Aaron Mack in the 21 machine continues to lead. He has yet to come down pit road with now just 15 to go. We know he won't have any fuel issues on that number 21 truck as he continues to stretch it out, but he's only about 1.5 seconds in front of this battle with Lorello getting past Darling. He will set his sights on the 21 of Mack. There he is with that bright green tailgate. It won't be all too long until Lorello is back to the race lead. He has led 43 laps tonight. And man, look at that closing rate on Aaron Mack. Almost caused an accident there because that 21 on those old tires, we mentioned it here tonight, Drew, about 2 seconds of fall off. It's huge. And I think Aaron Mack has finally had enough of those tires. He, I think, is going to hit pit road. Yes, he is. There he goes down to the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. But up at the front, it is James Zorello once again leading his 44th lap here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think we have seen that amount of kind of short run burst pace on fresh tires from this 9 truck all night. That was a really, really impressive display by James Zarello. I mean, just made it look like he had 5-lap fresher tires. Especially typically, iRacing, the temperatures mean so much, and that 9 truck did not have his tires up to temp and was able to blow by both of those guys. But this last run, Chris Darling was able to maintain with that 9 truck despite having 2-lap older tires. That difference is now cut in half, only 1-lap older tires. Will this 47 just be able to hang on behind this 9 and then maybe make a little bit of a late race run, a late run on this 9 truck? I think that Mitchell Adams, this is basically what he didn't want to see. I think that it would take a caution for this 49 truck, I think, to be able to get up there and race with James Zarello and Chris Darling. But that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I think that 47 is just going to kind of have to be patient and hope that that's the case, because I don't think he's going to have the pace over the span of this last 13 laps to be able to match James Zarello. I think it's going to be between these front two, between the guy we're riding on board with, Chris Darling, and the guy that we're looking at in James Zarello. I think that these guys have displayed so much long-run pace, and we haven't maybe seen it out of Chris Darling directly because he has been mired back in the pack, but we have seen his pace show itself later in these races, as now they are lapping our Texas winner and second place in points, TJ Buck. That's something that we should speak to a little bit, because I think our points are going to really drastically change after Indianapolis. Bill Edwards, points leader coming into this race, wrecked out. TJ Buck, second in points coming into this race, down in 18th position and just got lapped for the second time by our leaders. Our third place in points coming into tonight, James Zarello leading. I think we're going to see him take the points lead and have quite a big shakeup in points going into next race. So more than just tonight, this could have some this kind of chaotic but very long green run race, I think is going to have a pretty large impact on these point standings.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking a little bit further back, here is the number 14 of Jeff Price. We're going to go back here. Let's go back just a little bit more and go back on a 3-wide TV replay and see how he made the pass on the number 62 of Colin Ullery, because this was a battle for the 4th position, and Jeff Price continues to work his way forward. Man, pulls out very, very late, tries to use Andrew Himmelman as a bit of a pick. Himmelman with all that right side damage, and sure enough, Jeff Price, he's going to sneak his way now through up into that 4th position. So good job for him. We'll go back now live and see what's going on, and there you go. There's the number 14 continuing to work his way around the racetrack, but there is Lorello gonna click off another lap here in just a brief moment. There you go, and another lap down, and just 10 more laps to go here at Indianapolis.
Yep, 10 laps to go, and we are seeing this 47 at least hang around. I don't really think he has been in any way quicker than James Zarello, but he's doing something that we haven't seen anybody else do, which is keep up with him over the span of a run. And then Mitchell Adams, almost 2 seconds back now. I think we're starting to see that 49 truck just start to struggle with the handling just a bit. He is in no threat of losing 3rd position. Jeff Price is 12.7 seconds behind our leader, 11 seconds behind 3rd place. So I think our top 3, barring any other types of drama, are pretty solid. It's just what order are these guys going to finish in, and can these guys make it on fuel? We think it's probable, but 18 laps is as long as we've seen under green, and they're going to do kind of just over that, basically, right? Because they came in with 19 to go. So a fraction over 18 laps. How is it going to work out for these guys? Because remember, if you're running on fumes getting onto pit lane, you still have that entire length of pit road to go on. So if you are kind of cutting in and out coming into pit lane after 18 laps, I don't think you're going to quite make it here, as Chris Darling may be closing a little bit here on the backstretch, Peter.
Yeah, definitely has the draft, and his lap times have been, again, comparable to Lorello. Last time by, Lorello was about 3 hundredths of a second faster, but that 47 definitely still holding onto that draft. You can see, though, a huge gap has formed back behind the number 47 of Chris Darling, up to 3.6 seconds back to Mitchell Adams. And that last time by Mitchell Adams, 0.8 of a second slower. In fact, more than that, 1.3 seconds slower than the 47 of Chris Darling. So something might have happened. We'll have to see whether or not there's any damage on the number 49 machine, Drew, because we've seen that out of a couple trucks here tonight. I don't see any significant damage. Maybe he just got caught up with the lap traffic there of Doug Milliner, but definitely things starting to go awry here for Mitchell Adams, unless he's saving some fuel, because remember, he was one of the earlier takers on pit road in that bright pink number 49.
Yeah, I think for some interesting perspective, the 9 of James Lorello came out behind that 6 truck coming out of pit lane. The 6 truck is a lap down, so essentially that 49 truck has been no quicker than a truck who is a lap down at this point and is in fact getting passed by him. So he has to be saving fuel, Peter. I agree. Based on what we just saw, I think that 49 thinks he's not going to be able to make it, and he's saving fuel. What does that mean for our second place Chris Darling? They pitted the same lap, and if this 49 thinks he can't make it, then how does Chris Darling possibly think he can make it?
Well, what he might be doing here is he might be using that draft to his advantage, and he might just might be able to breathe the throttle a little bit down the straightaway. But we know these trucks are very, very fast because we saw it in qualifying. Of course, they do have tire fall off from what we've seen in qualifying, but they weren't but just barely breathing the throttle in the qualifying session. So if you're saving fuel here at Indianapolis, you're going to lose a lot of time, and you're going to lose a lot of time fast, unless you have a big pack of cars that you can draft off of. Let's see if we can pull up the driver info down there, bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Chris Darling, 153 miles an hour in the corner, goes all the way down there, almost down to those rumble strips. That's a pretty good line because it gives you a good launch out of turn number 2. And again, just trying to hold on to that draft off the back of Lorello's number 9 truck. These trucks do punch a pretty big hole in the air, so maybe he's getting some benefit from that. But Darling doesn't seem to be looks like he's just laying it all out there on the racetrack. Doesn't seem like he's saving all too much here, as we'll have 5 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, I think for Chris, there's not a whole lot that you want to save, really, right? Like you have this great opportunity, and to not be able to at least fight for it would be pretty heartbreaking. But I mean, Mitchell Adams, almost 7 seconds back now, actually 9 seconds back behind James Lorello. At 47, if he is not saving fuel, is having huge issues, but I got to imagine that is fuel saving from that 49 truck, knowing that he probably didn't have a shot to win. So maybe he's just saving just enough to maintain that 3rd position. But man, I gotta wonder, Chris Darling. I know that the draft can be so powerful, and I know what we saw. Oh man, I was gonna say Sunday. It wasn't Sunday. It was what? Wednesday? Was it yesterday? I can't even remember. The Texas race, the NASCAR race in real life, where we saw Kyle Busch do this same thing to snag that victory, to extend his fuel mileage, get behind these faster cars, and just save as much fuel as possible using this draft effect to maintain that pace. Is Chris Darling going to be able to pull a Kyle Busch and sneak one out here in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I'm running on board here with Mitchell Adams. I'm just trying to see if I can hear him say. It sounds like he might be rolling out of that throttle just a little bit more than what we heard out of Chris Darling. So yeah, I do believe Mitchell Adams is trying to save some fuel in that truck. Meanwhile, back up at the front, there you see the battle for the race lead. The number 9 and the 47, that is the 7 of Ray Heilig, who is about to go 1 lap down. He's currently being scored 12th. The last truck on the lead lap, or was the last truck on the lead lap. That now goes to Aaron Mack, as Heilig now going to fall 1 lap down in that TikTok Chevrolet. And it's quite a ways up to the 21 of Aaron Mack. And remember, Mack is on the freshest tires in the entire field right now, I do believe. So Mack definitely is probably going to stay on the lead lap for the end of this race. Colin Ullery, though, in the number 62, I think he is in dire need of a pit stop back there. You see him running right behind the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman. Perhaps he's just trying to save as much fuel as possible. He is being caught by the number 28 of Jamar Dumas. That would be a battle for the 5th position in a top 5 here, as we now only have 3 more laps to go. The 9 of Lorello continuing to lead here as they go into turn number 3.
Yeah, we're getting to the final few laps here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It always seems to come down to fuel mileage in the Indy 500 in some way, some fashion. How many times, Alexander Rossi won his own fuel mileage. We have seen it time and time again. Is that what the NSRA Simbox Truck Series is going to see here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Is James Lorello quite an inconvenient place to catch that lap truck? You know, you don't really want to tighten your entry any more than you have to, but kind of pays Chris Darling back in the same way on corner exit in turn 2, compromising his out of turn 1 into his turn 2 entrance. And now this gap's about as big as we've seen between first and second place. Gotta say, probably 15-20 truck lengths between James Lorello and Chris Darling. As for the second to last time, the penultimate time, they make their way through turn 3, down the short chute, going into turn 4. Is Chris Darling going to be able to make it? Is he going to be able to close it just a little bit, make James Lorello sweat a little bit? The last 2.5 miles will tell the tale as they come to the white flag here at the Brickyard.
White flag is out, just 2.5 miles for the number 9 of James Lorello. He is dominated here tonight. He's led 57 laps. Will he make it 58 this next time by? 0.7 of a second over Chris Darling. We'll find out if any of these drivers will run out of fuel. For now, Colin Ullery in the number 62 is holding on to the 5th position, but look at who's right behind him. That is the number 28 of Jamar Dumas. Ben Adams in the number 5 also there to take that spot. We'll keep an eye on that, but meanwhile, back up the front for the final time into turn number 3. Here comes James Lorello. He's got 0.4 of a second advantage over Chris Darling. He's going to have to run out of fuel here for Darling to take the win. Lorello out of turn number 4 for the final time, Drew.
And here we go down the front stretch out of turn 4. James Lorello so quick tonight, so dominant on the long runs. He will take the win at the World Center of Motorsports at the Brickyard.
Yeah, fantastic run for him. Meanwhile, we'll go back a little bit further in the pack. We'll watch this battle. There is Ullery. There is Jamar Dumas. This is the battle for the final spot in the top 5. They're side by side coming out of the corner. Does Ullery have enough fuel to make it to the end? Here comes Ben Adams. They're going to be 3 wide to the line and Ullery's out. Ullery's out. Ullery has run out of fuel. Jamar Dumas will come across the line in 5th. And Drew, we thought Ullery was going to run out of fuel. Sure enough, it happened right there on the run down to the checkered flag.
So close. So close. Just would have taken maybe a couple lift and coast to open wheel speak to make it for that 62 truck. It's got to be kind of heartbreaking. That 62 truck ran in the top 5 pretty much the entire race and loses it while sputtering, coming to take the checkers. One man who's not disappointed, one man who is not heartbroken, James Lorello. Always so awesome to win here in the Brickyard in a league race. I have managed to do it before, and it is still my favorite win of my kind of less than glamorous career. But James Lorello pulls a Greg Biffle, backs it into the front stretch wall. He doesn't care. He has won it. He's going to get to kiss the bricks, and what a performance by this 9 truck.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely very, very, very good for that number 9 machine, and 4th win of the season. How about that, Drew? Just this number 9 has been absolutely lights out for the Simbox Truck Series season. I think tonight is race number 10, and he's won 40% of the races so far. And by my math, he will leave Indianapolis as your points leader in this season. So definitely someone to make some noise and keep an eye on for the remainder of the season. Folks, we're going to step away for just a brief moment here on 3 Wide TV. We will be right back. We'll get some post-race interviews for you, and will be a good one here on 3 Wide TV. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where tonight's Simbox Truck Series action has come to a close. Checkered flag has fallen. We have some post-race interviews lined up for you, and I believe that Drew Eisenman is caught up with this man right here, Mitchell.
Mitchell, Drew Eisman in the 3Y TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Mitchell, we saw you have an incredible amount of short run pace, leading quite a few laps. Kind of faded there at the end. Can you just give us a general breakdown of how your race went?
Yeah, I mean, this 49 truck had a ton of speed today. I wish I could have been there at the end. I played the pit strategies. I just needed one more lap of fuel, so I had to back off and save that whole last run. Wish I could have run up there with them. I feel like really had something for them. But no, the 49 was great all night. We were up front most all of it, and solid pit stops again. And I just happy for the top three. Wish we could have had a little more, though.
Yeah, we kind of saw that late race, loss of pace. And you mentioned having a lap less of fuel. Were you aware going into that last pit stop that you would have to save a little bit?
Yeah, I'd miscalculated how much fuel I needed from back about lap 50, so I was saving a little bit that second to last run, but I was hardly ever full throttle that last run, just trying to make it to the end. It was close, but we ended up making it, so I'm proud of the fact I saved enough fuel to get to the end, but just kind of wish I hadn't put myself in that position way back earlier in the race.
Yeah, we kind of figured that when we saw you really dropping off. I was like, well, he's either got a tire down or he's saving enough to just save that third position. So it's good that we here in the booth were able to figure it out. But we saw that the 9, it seemed to, James Morello seemed to still have a little bit more long run pace than you. What were you saving stuff? Were you just maybe burning off the right front? What do you think that difference in pace was a result of?
I was killing my tires tonight, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what he had, but I just felt like I was running them too hard, and that's something I've got to work on, and the races coming up is I just got to get better on the long run. I know I'm good. I'm just not as good as the 9 truck is, and Chris was also flying on the long runs tonight. Both of them were just kicking my butt on long runs, so I got to figure that out. But other than that, I felt like we did have good short run speed again tonight.
Yeah, we certainly saw that short run pace on display. Well, next week we have a very, very different challenge at Iowa Motor Speedway. It's typically a love it or hate it track. I have heard it described as what should become the Midwest's largest swimming pool. Just fill it with water and get rid of it. What's your opinion of Iowa, and are you looking forward to next week?
I've never heard people say that about Iowa. Man, I love that track. That's one of my favorite tracks. I love that. Probably my favorite short track. So no, I'm really looking forward to it.
What kind of what's your favorite part about the track? I guess what makes you love it so much?
I just love you can get multiple grooves out of that place, and the tires wear so fast. So somebody who's patient and disciplined about the race is going to end up running up front, just and managing what line you're running. It's a blast. I love that place.
Well, I know we're certainly looking forward to next week as well. Congratulations on your podium finish in third position. Before we let you go, Mitchell, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just anybody watching that's cheering on the 49 truck. No, we put it up front. For Adams Racing, Highside Motorsports, Revolution Motorsports, the Gazebo Girls. Thank you to the NSRA for the league again, and you all for broadcasting. Just everybody for showing out and putting on a good race tonight.
Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our second place interview, and I have caught up with tonight's runner-up driver of the number 47 machine, Chris Darling. And Chris, you and I talked a little bit midweek about that drive-through penalty right at the start of the race, and you said, man, this is probably going to be the one week that we go caution-free, but luckily you were able to get a couple of cautions and slowly but surely make your way through the field. Very impressive run for you tonight in that 47. Tell us a little bit about it from your perspective.
Oh, man, it's just nice to get a little luck once in a while. I was pretty worried we weren't going to have a caution all night, but I just stayed composed, was patient all night, and that's kind of what I've been having to do all season. I've just been having trouble with it, so it's just about not making mistakes really tonight.
Yeah, in fact, that was a key term for a lot of drivers here tonight. Just not make any mistakes. These trucks were a handful to drive. We heard from quite a few drivers, even in the 3Wide TV chat, that they were really pushy here tonight. Tell us a little bit about that and how the truck drove for you throughout the race.
It was tight. There's not a whole lot to say. I mean, I don't know. They're tight every week, really, but this week especially. I think the tire wear at Indy is just really crucial. You got to save tires, and I think if you drive in too deep, it's pretty much game over for you when you're racing. But I don't know. I figured out that if you grab that curb just a tiny little bit with maybe like half the tire, you could kind of arc it around the corner a little better. So I started doing that. Started letting off a little earlier, and I don't know. It wasn't too bad for me all night, really. Honestly, I know a lot of guys had problems with it, but I was pretty hooked up.
Yeah, definitely a good night for you here, and also a good points night. By my math, you will be very close to taking over second place in points, if not will take over second place in points with this runner-up finish here tonight. And, you look back over the start of the season, the first 9 races before tonight, would you expect to be second place in points after all that madness?
After all the bad luck, probably not. I think before the season started, I knew I was going to be a bit faster than I was last season, but I don't know. I've been doing really well, so I don't know. I'm hoping I can just carry it all season. I'm not really too worried about the point situation. I just want to get some wins here. I know the chase is coming, so everybody's going to be closed back up by the time that starts. So wins will help. I like wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that number 47 machine is going to be a force to be reckoned with next week at Iowa Speedway. What are your thoughts about going to that track? 7/8 of a mile is a unique one.
I love Iowa. I don't know. I'm excited for it. I was pretty fast at Richmond. I kind of look at Richmond as being sort of the same as Iowa. I mean, Iowa's a little different, but same principle pretty much. So it's pretty exciting to go to a track that I think I'll be good at. So we'll see what happens.
Should be a good one. Same time, same place here on 3Wide TV next week. But Chris, before I let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to Doug Neal Simbox for sponsoring the series, all the series sponsors, TNR, over those guys over there sponsoring my truck right now. So just want to give a shout-out to them. Check them out. Pretty much everybody in the league. It's been a pretty good season. Hopefully it continues, and hopefully we can turn it into something else moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, best of luck next week at Iowa. And, of course, I expect to see that 47 machine up near the front if we got any glimmer of what your pace will be like next week from Richmond a couple weeks back. See you later, Chris.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. And I believe that Mr. Drew Eisenman has worked his way down to victory lane with the number 9 of James Lorello.
Hey, James Lorello, it's Drew Eisman in the 3Wide TV booth. You got a copy.
Gotcha.
Well, it hasn't been too long, but it has been more than one race since we were able to speak to you in Victory Lane here at kind of the most prestigious of ovals at Indianapolis. How was your race tonight?
That was great. I really had a great long run car. I was thankful for those green flags, and then I feel like it came down to a little bit of pit strategy there. And I was just doing what I could, turning the car off in the corner on the run before that, so I would have enough to get to 17 to go. And otherwise, the car felt good, and it feels good to come out on top of that one.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly saw a dominating performance, especially over the long runs. What about your driving style at Indy made this truck work so well? We heard so many guys talk about how tight the trucks were. Mitchell Adams said that he was just burning the tires off this thing, trying to get pace out of it. What allowed you to be able to have that pace and save those tires?
Yeah, I think I was getting out of it a lot earlier than other guys in every turn. And I would lightly brake it to get it to rotate in the corner, and then shoot off the corner. And I think that's really what did it. Just easy. And I try to do that every track, but Indy it really rewards you because otherwise it really pushes.
Yeah, and then we saw how that paid off with especially saving that right front, which is so crucial to be able to get out of the corner here at Indy to not get tight out of especially turns 2 and 4. But we did see you stay out a little bit longer than your competitors, kind of at the negative impact to your kind of short-term track position coming out of the pit lane. But we do know that Mitchell Adams had to save fuel there late in the run. How aware were you of the amount of track position you were losing on pit stops, that you were staying out later, and then the overall fuel mileage game? What was going through your mind with that pit strategy?
Yeah, once we had that last caution, or what I thought was going to be the last caution, I knew what laps I had to get to. I had to get to 34 to go. Then I wanted to get to 17 to go. So when I saw those guys short pit me about 2 laps before I wanted to pit, I thought that they were really going to run out for sure. I didn't think that they could make it to 18 to go. So I was turning off the car in every corner to save on that one run that I went a little long so that I could make it there at the end. I probably could have pit 1 lap shorter, but I figured if I had it, I might as well. This way I didn't have to save and I could run hard if I had to race anybody.
That certainly worked out. Well, by our estimations, Bill Edwards had some significant drama tonight. He was the leader in points coming in. TJ Buck, second in points coming in, did not have the finish that he was looking for down in 16th. You're the race winner. You were only 12 points behind the second place, 24 points behind the leader. Oh, I'm sorry, just 12 overall. Yeah, 12 overall behind the leader. So by our estimations, you are going to be the points leader. What does that mean to you to be able to kind of recover after some struggles in a couple races, not with pace, but with finishes? What does it mean to you to likely be the points leader coming out of Indy?
Yeah, that's great. Great momentum. I missed a race early on at Vegas, and I've been wrecked out at I think 3 races so far this year. So it feels good that, early on in the season to get up in the points lead. The higher up there I can be, I think I can coast a little bit here at the end instead of having to really push.
Well, we've seen you be so quick at so many different types of tracks. Richmond, Dover, Atlanta, Indy. Is there a type of track you don't like and that we shouldn't expect you to be at the front on?
There's 2 tracks I hate. Well, road courses, but Canadian motorsports I think we got in this series. And then I really can't get a hang of Wilkesboro just yet. So those ones are killing me. But the rest I'll tend to like. Bristol and Iowa are my favorites coming up on the schedule.
You just answered my next question. We got Iowa coming up. You mentioned it's one of your favorites. What about it makes it that one of those favorite tracks for you?
Like any track where if you save tires, it rewards you, and I feel like Iowa really does that. And you can run the bottom or the top really in 3 and 4. It's good racing, and I think that's one of my strengths is just being able to save tires more than some of these other guys. And any track that helps reward me with that, I think I can have success at.
Well, we look forward to watching it next week. Congratulations, your 4th win of the season, a 40% win rate. That is absolutely incredible. Well, before we let you go, James, is there anybody that you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast. Always great. Can't wait to go back and rewatch it. Thanks to Simbox for sponsoring the Truck Series, Brookstone Animal Hospital, Sim Racing Certs, to Bill Edwards, my teammate, and Fatal Concepts Design. He paints all the cars. Just been a good one. Thanks to our teammates. I'll see you guys next week.
Well, thank you, James. And once again, congratulations.
Yes.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for our post-race interviews here tonight. And Drew, like you said, 40% win rate so far this year in the Simbox Truck Series. Very impressive from that man in the number 9 machine. Before we go further, we do have to, of course, do the biggest mover of the race award. And this week, that is going to be none other than the number 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr., who started all the way shotgun on the field, 29th here tonight, and comes home to finish inside the top 10 in 9th, picked up 20 positions here tonight. Jeffrey Johnson Jr., your Taz Racing Customs biggest mover of the race. Make sure you check them out for all of your custom die-cast needs, whether it's one of these cars out there on the racetrack that you see right now in iRacing, one of the other iRacing cars, or whether you want a custom real-life NASCAR. Taz Racing Customs can hook you up. And once again, congratulations to Jeffrey Johnson Jr. But Drew, I think it's time that we go through tonight's final finishing result.
Absolutely. We just spoke to him. 4 wins on the season. James Dorello, your race winner tonight. Chris Darling, a great run, finishing second. Mitchell Adams had so much short run pace, just struggled a little bit with the fuel mileage calculations. He'll bring it home third. Great run by Jeff Price. I think fourth was probably the best he ran all night, and he will bring it home in that fourth position. Basically the same story with Jamar Dumas. A really, really solid run for that 28 truck. Started sixth, finished fifth. I think that, in my judgment, is probably the most complete race that we have seen that 28 truck put together. Ben Adams able to recover from an EOL penalty resulting in from the big front stretch crash between he and that 48 truck of Matt Cherry with others involved. Great recovery to finish sixth. Colin Ullery, disappointing, ran out of fuel, running in the top 5 all night. Runs out of fuel, coming to take the checkered flag down the front stretch, and that 62 truck ultimately will finish 7th. Peter Certo, solid run in 8th position. Jeffrey Johnson Jr., as you mentioned, Peter, our biggest mover, started last, finished 9th. I don't think he'll have any complaints. And Monty Glover in the 10 truck will round out our top 10.
Yeah, how about that? 10 in the 10th position. Your next group of cars there, Aaron Mack coming home in the 11th position. Good job for Aaron here tonight to keep that 21 Mack truck pretty much clean all night long. The last truck on the lead lap. Your Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner, Doug Milliner. He's going to finish down in the 12th position, one spot in front of Ray Heilig, who finishes 13th. Andrew Himmelman had a very strong race going in the first half of the race. Unfortunately, got some damage. He's going to finish 14th here tonight. Similar deal with Justin White. He finishes down in 15th, one lap down. And then we got a couple of trucks, 2 laps down. TJ Buck, your winner from Texas Motor Speedway, finishing 16th. Nicholas Bradley in the 40. He finishes 17th. Philip Scott, who, from the sounds of things, ended up with a penalty for pitting there just before we went back green, Drew. Pit road was closed, and that's one of the reasons why Philip Scott got a penalty. Found out about that here in the post-race. Stephen Doziak Jr., who was involved in an accident at one point in the early portions of tonight's race, he finishes in 19th, and Brian Bradley rounds out your top 20 here, Drew. Brian Bradley in that number 16 truck. Got to give that man an award for just perseverance, because that 16 truck was really banged up, and he finishes 9 laps down.
Yeah, now we're getting to the guys that really did not have the nights they were looking for. Jordan Shepler was one of those trucks that was involved in that front stretch incident, slammed into the inside wall. Actually didn't hit anybody, just trying to avoid it and ran out of room. And then Ben Mashburn, we saw have that problem at a turn 4, get involved with the 15 of Robert Dudley, who ultimately blew up in a pretty spectacular fashion. He finished just behind him. Joey Doucette also had a ton of damage resulting from that crash, as did Matt Cherry, who will finish in 25th. Paul Bilson, another guy that got caught up into one of those huge wrecks. 26th, 27th, Josh Sobel. Again, we could just repeat the narrative for him as well. His left front got ripped off basically down the backstretch in the Bill Edwards incident, where who finishes right behind him. Our point seater coming into tonight, obviously finishing second to last, is not what that 50 truck was looking for. Also involved in that, Matt Vanderkoy in the 60. Started 27th, will finish 29th. Not the best night for that 60 truck.
Yeah, definitely not the night he was looking for. Same thing with Bill Edwards down there. So definitely a rough night for some of the drivers, but we're going to do it all again at Iowa. Same time, same place next week. But I'll tell you what, it was a very interesting Lots of Lizards 250 here tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Definitely had a lot of slippery, slithery turns around this racetrack, Drew, to get to the end. And it was James Arella walking away with the victory lane, going to victory lane once again here on 3 Wide TV. But Drew, Iowa next week. What are your thoughts about that racetrack?
I have loved it and I have hated it. It really is so setup dependent. If it's tight, I do not have a ton of fun. But if it's loose, I think it's a blast. But we've heard from a lot of these guys that are at the front how much they enjoy Iowa. I expect James Zarello to be competitive once again. If he loves Iowa and he doesn't love Indy, I think the field's in a heap of trouble, but I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it all pans out as well. Big shout out to Simbox for sponsoring the Simbox Truck Series for the National Sim Racing Association. Also, big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for this camera package that we bring you each and every week. They're a great group of guys. And also do a fantastic job with their commentary. So make sure you check them out right here on YouTube. But Drew, same time, same place next week. Any final thoughts?
Honestly, a lot less chaos tonight than I was expecting. I know we saw a couple of those wrecks, but man, I can't tell you how many times I have seen in iRacing just absolutely massive pileups on the front stretch early at Indy. And tonight we saw some small versions of that, but I think overall these guys handled a pretty tricky setup and track combo based on their descriptions. I think they handled it pretty well. It's so difficult to be able to drive a really tight car here really quickly and stay out of the wall. And I think for the most part, we saw that. So a great job by this entire 29 truck field and getting a really, really difficult race in. I mean, this is darn near record time for these guys. So a huge congratulations to the entire field.
Absolutely. My key takeaway from this race is that one accident. Nothing to take away from James Lorello, but that one accident that completely blocked the front straightaway is definitely something that I'm going to be keeping in the back of my head every time I come to Indianapolis from here on out. But folks, for myself, Peter Shorge and Drew Eisenman, we want to give each and every one of you a wonderful evening, wonderful day, whatever the case may be. But we'll see you guys same place, same time right here on 3Y TV next week for Iowa action. And we will have to say goodnight and see ya.